Welcome to the latest episode of The Claw's Corner. This is a special episode for sure. On April 19th, 2020, the first episode loaded to The Claw's Corner YouTube channel. It was an episode of Real Talk featuring Rich and Jon, and they discussed the Evil Dead franchise. That was the first episode on this channel, but this channel's main focus is a show called The Claw's Corner as well. And tonight, in honor of that 5th anniversary, we have a super special guest. Comedian, actor for screen and radio, metal singer, disc jockey, author, motivational speaker, marathon runner. This guy has done so much. This madman is unstoppable. Born with cerebral palsy and given last rites 3 times. But this man, he had no time for that nonsense. He stood right up there in the hospital as a baby, pointed at 3 months old at a doctor right in the face and said, you, and tap danced out of the hospital, went right to the beach and took on 3 sharks in a fist fight and won. But we're not even going to have time to discuss that tonight. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, please welcome the man, the mirth, the myth, the legend, the claw, Rich Sear.
How the hell
are you?
Wow,
welcome to your own show.
I love it when the interviewer becomes interviewee.
So here's to you for 5 years of the Claw's Corner.
I'll be drinking out of this, wearing this, behind me that.
I should have wore my shirt. Damn, well, it's all right. So 5 years ago, just give every little bit of a background. 5 years ago, as we all remember, COVID hit and the world was shut down. But right before that, in February, I met Rich. Rich was asked by our friend Joe Timothy Quirk to be on a show called Nutmeg Chatter that Rich was hosting. Mm-hmm. And I'd been on it previously when Joe was the host, and I went on, met Rich, and we hit it off, which was fantastic. We had a great show. Yep. And we said, hey, let's get together in a couple weeks, do another one. Let's do some about horror movies and stuff. And he was going to come to a screening that I was doing in March. Well, none of those things happened because 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit. And 2 weeks after that, the second Friday in March, the state was shut down along with most of the country and a good chunk of the world. But Rich and I kept talking. We said, let's do something else. So in March, we started recording what would become Real Talk. And you started doing your interviews from home via Zoom to make sure you still do things on Nutmeg. Mm-hmm. And we turned those into your Claw's Corner interview show. And here we are 5 years later. You've got hundreds of episodes of the Claw's Corner. Yeah. A few dozen of Real Talk. And you also had a show briefly with our buddy Weibo.
Yep.
Called the Local Artist Show for the past 5 years. So, like, there's so much to talk about. But first, let's just talk about, like, you.
Yes. My favorite subject.
and what got you into wanting to do like broadcasting and interviewing? So where did that all come from to start with? Let's just jump right into it.
Wow. Well, years ago when I was in high school, I wanted to become a disc jockey. I think it was just because I think it all started when there was a radio station for people who live in Connecticut, 106 WHCN. They used to have the live lunch luau's.
When we were in high school, though, it was called 107.
Yeah, no,
HCN was 106. You're right.
Yeah, 105. That went digital.
Then it became 105.9. Yeah.
Okay. So it was but they moved Picozzi, who was he was
the morning guy.
Morning guy.
Picozzi in the horn.
Yeah, but he moved to 107 later, and they did luau's later. But originally they used to do it at WHCN. And I used to go to parties and have such a great time, and they used to always say, "Man, you'd fit perfect at this station." This is when I had the long hair. So I said, this seems like a fun job. I want to be a DJ. So I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which was the biggest, for me, the waste of money in my life, because it's just really, everything I just got from networking and connections, and I did everything on my own. But when I went there, I interned at WHCN for a while, and then from there, it ended up into like 3 different jobs. I did end up working at 107 WCBT, yeah. And then I worked at a couple AM stations, which I had the best time because even now it's way worse. But back then they were saying corporations took over and radio isn't fun anymore.
Right.
You came in but now I laugh because I've talked to some of the DJs and they're like, boy, I wish I was in radio when you were in radio. It used to be fun back then. So I always had a love for broadcasting. I always had a love for talking. And now it just came full circle because I used to always get the AM stations. I used to always get yelled at. You're talking too much. Nobody wants to hear. They want to hear more music, and I just love talking. I used to put the
Which is
viewers
funny on
on.
AM.
I
Yeah.
know exactly. That's why I said no. I said the same five people that listen to that show are listening to my show. Nobody gives a shit really. You're like, oh no, they care, and everybody, the people love me. So I would just mostly talk to the viewers and just interview them, and I mean the listeners, and I had a great time, and I love just talking to people, and that's I think where the love came from. I think it's where it first originated from.
Nice.
So back
So
in the late '80s.
late 80s. Okay, I was gonna say when was that? It would be the late 80s. They were still called 106 then, so it would have been the late 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so like when you were a kid though, you were definitely involved in like you were very into the arts, like the art world, like film and television and all
Oh
that.
yeah.
That's something we bonded on when we first met. And you at one point you wanted to write movies and make movies, or was it always radio?
No, no.
Okay.
Let's go back to Little Richie Sayre, cerebral palsy victim,
Right. The special child.
special boy.
We're gonna put a thing on the screen explaining why I'm saying that. I'm not making fun of Rich. There's at different times in a different era you could say things about kids and it wasn't as offensive. And there's this great little news article. I'm gonna put it on the screen now from when Rich was a kid and somebody wrote he's a special child. And it just cracks me up every time you reshare it on Facebook. So I gotta put that online. But go on.
I,
So when you were a kid though, you were really into like films though. You still are,
oh
obviously.
yeah, I definitely am. But when I was a kid, so I was probably, well, it started when I was 7 years old. My father said, "Hey, Rich, do you want to go to school? Not really. Do you want to go see Jaws?" I'm like, hell yeah! So I was 7 years old. My,
You're aging,
my
you're aging yourself, so you're
Yes, I am. I'm 56 years old. I love being this age. I'm having the time of my life. I don't care because I'm actually glad that I grew up when I did because I loved that era and I wish I was actually older when it came to that. But anyway, that's another story. So from there, my brothers and I never heard or knew what the word plagiarism meant because after Jaws came out, we wrote our own story called Shark. And what we did was we made a wooden shark. We had my grandfather built a pond where we lived. He built the road that we lived on, so it was great area, all woods, ponds. So we'd go in there, charge the local neighborhood kids a quarter, and then we'd get in the pond with a wooden shark. My brother jumped in a big box, a refrigerator box, made it the cage like a hooper, and we would just
God.
shows for people. And then 1977 hit, and 2 years later, Close Encounters came out. Guess what? For some weird reason, I was inspired to write UFO. So
You still have those scripts anywhere?
I don't. I wish I did.
Oh man, that'd be funny to read, like 9-year-old Rich stuff.
Oh yeah, but it
You
was
know?
I always, and it's funny because I know we talked about this before, and I probably talked about it with a lot of my guests. When I was young, I was severely shy for some weird reason. I don't know
I
why.
was too. I was too. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that might be like a thing of creative people. Like, yeah,
yeah. But the reason I'm bringing that up now was because the only time I really felt comfortable that young was when I get up and read my stories in front of the class. I don't know why. I was always didn't want to talk to anybody. I really didn't care about being friends with anybody, but I would love to get up and read my original stories. So my teacher at the time, this is when I was in fourth grade, she was trying to get me out of my shell and get me to become more acclimated with the students and have more fun with the students. So she tried to get me enrolled into creative writing. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's like writing for fun. But she did end up enrolling me in that, and I had a great time doing that. And over the years, I did some writing, but as you get older, your priorities change, and I started getting into different interests, and that's when I started getting more into music, and I started doing heavy metal bands and things like that. But so it wasn't until maybe 5, 6 years ago that I started to get back into it again.
back into it all. Yeah.
And it was all because of my friend Paul Starybreath, who saw me doing comedy for a while, and he said, "Rich, you'd be a huge inspiration to my students. I'd love to have you talk to them." He works at a place called Abilities Beyond, and so I was talking to them. I said, "What do you want to be?" And she goes, "I'd love to write." I said, "Well, what's stopping you?" And then she goes, "You're right."
Right. What's stopping you? Yeah.
So then I said, I used to love writing. I'd love to get back into it. So she said, "Well, what's stopping you?" I said, "Aha, throwing my own words at me."
Mhm.
So what
Well,
happened?
it's true. Like as a creator myself, people are always coming to me, and you probably hear it now too from people like you said. What's stopping you? People are always like, "Oh, I want to do that." Well, why don't you? Well,
Yeah,
and people make a million excuses not to do it.
exactly.
Because it's easier not to do it than it is to do it. And and I want to make a movie, then make a movie. Especially now. Write a book. It's so easy to write a book now. Everyone has a computer. Everyone has you can type, or you can talk to text. Everyone can make a movie now because everyone's got a camera on their phone. Like it's not as hard as it was anymore to do it and release it even because you can put a book right out there and self-publish where you couldn't do that 30 years ago. Reasonably you couldn't do that. So yes, it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had lots of different interests, and so when she said that, I said, you know what, you're right, and I always have all these different ideas, and I was writing. There was something I forgot what it's called now, but there was this website that she had me go on where it's just like you could write stories and put stories on there, and my friend came up to me and said, Rich, he goes, I'm trying to start my own publishing company. Do you mind if I publish your book stories? No, please do
I don't
it.
mind at all, right?
No, no,
Yeah.
no. So he started Rayon, Rayon, Rayon Publishing, and then right now it's on just Amazon. But I love. I say every once in a while I'll still see a couple pennies in my Amazon account. I'm like, wait, did I get hacked? And I realize it's a
Somebody
credit.
bought a book.
Somebody
Yeah.
bought a book.
Which, by the way, link in bio, link in description below to buy Rich's book, of course. So let's talk a little bit about your childhood, though. You born with cerebral palsy.
Yes.
No. Now I might have. I know I don't have any known disabilities besides the mental ones. But like
Other known.
I was raised. Yeah, those are known. I was raised in a house. My brother had muscular dystrophy. So like although it wasn't me specifically, I have firsthand accounts and recollections of how you can be treated differently growing up with those kind of things. It wasn't me, but I watched it happen to my brother, and I was there for it all. So I can imagine like the whole special child thing we were goofing on earlier. Your interpretation of the world, definitely has an effect on how you became an adult. What happened to you when you were a kid and maybe growing up and being sick and things like that. How do you like going back to being a child and you obviously overcame that.
Yeah.
In the intro, I made the joke about how you gave that you yelled "F you" at the doctors and all that, but you kind of did that, like without actually saying those words by surviving. So like I'm just curious, like what was it like for you as a kid knowing that you're gonna be different, but not mentally different? Like my brother went through that. He was in a wheelchair, but his brain was 100%. Like you did was is that do you think that maybe the why you were part of the why you were shy and led to more creativity, or do you think it was just your personality was just more shy?
I think it was my personality because I'll give you an example of how this really never affected me. When I was in fourth grade, when I had the operation, when the article came out, I was telling my classmates, "Yeah, I'm going to the hospital." And they said, "For what?" I said, "My leg." "Why? What's wrong with your leg?" And I said, "I'm cerebral." Oh, I completely forgot about them. These are kids in fourth
Okay,
grade. So
because they were just so used to you. Okay, that's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I never, and I swear to God, I have. If people did it, they did it behind my back. But I don't remember anybody ever making fun of me. Nobody
I
ever
make
did.
fun of you behind your back all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. You do it to my face, which I love. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but not for that. I make fun of you for other things. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, it's everybody. Just I was, you know what it was, because I actually forgot about it. Besides like the 1,000 jokes I make about it, I forget about it. So I never really, and it never affected me, and I love it because I was born with it. If it was like Stephen Hawking, where it happened when I was 20 years old, I'd have to change my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way. So I always make the joke. I said, I want to get an operation and fix my hand. No, I don't want to fix this hand. I want to make this hand like this. This thing is comedy gold. And
I love it.
It's
See, that's
true.
great. Also, you have this amazing sense of humor with the whole situation too,
Yeah.
which some people wouldn't have in your situation. So, like that just shows that I would say that's something that probably comes from the way you were raised and your parents not treating you different, you
Yeah.
know. And because you were used to it, everyone around you got used to it. That's fantastic, actually. That's cool. Like,
Well,
yeah,
I'll give you an example of that too, because my parents, when I was young, they wanted to put me in these special classes. She goes, "No, we're not putting him in a
yeah,
special
because
class.
you
He's
weren't. There
fine."
was nothing wrong with your brain.
No.
Yeah. My
So
brother had to fight. My parents had to fight some of that with my brother too. It was like there's nothing wrong with him. He just can't walk. Like he had
yeah,
muscular dystrophy. But there was nothing wrong with up here. Why are you putting him in classes with kids that
yeah,
have the? It's an old mentality, and school systems are still like that. I'm sure. Unfortunately, I
yeah, yeah.
bet. But okay, so I want to talk about the first time I met you for a minute because the
All
first I
right.
didn't, Joe Quirk messaged me, hey, do you want to be in the show? I'm like, heck yeah. So I go out to WAPJ where the show was gonna be recorded and aired originally, and I'd never met you before. I didn't even know you. It's funny because you and I have probably been in the same room a dozen times and
We
never
had to
met.
be.
Like different concerts, different shows, things like that, different movie theaters, like, but never met. We knew so many people in common. It was just bizarre. But you're walking up, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be Rich. I saw your picture because I looked, obviously on Facebook. I'm like, what does this guy look like? And you come in, either you pulled right up in front of the radio, or you were right near the radio station. I saw you at the car. And I'm like, is he drunk? Just the way you were walking at first, and I'm like, oh no, he's not drunk. He's got something. I didn't know what it was right away. I'm like, oh, something's up with him. That's all. Okay. But I was like, whatever. Once I realized you weren't drunk, I'm like, oh, this will be fine.
Yeah.
And if you were drunk, that might have been really funny, but you
And
weren't. But that was my
when
first
I'm drunk, I walk normal.
completely upright. Yeah.
When I'm sober, I'm like the second guy in the evolution chart.
Right. Oh man. So we have so much to cover though. And I really wanted to get like into the intro and hear a little bit about your childhood first and all that.
Yeah.
And then, so then the next thing you really kind of did, you did the radio thing.
Mm-hmm.
You did CSB. What years were you in Connecticut School of Broadcasting?
It
Just
was
could you
only a
remember?
six-month course. It was
Right.
1991.
So,
That
oh,
was
the '90s. Okay, yeah,
it.
early '90s. Yeah, right when radio starting, it's a little bit of a turn,
Yeah.
especially in Connecticut. Connecticut radio's never really been on the up and up with great stuff, anyways. Like
Yeah.
they're not very ballsy, put it that way. But like so you, and then when we got a radio, and you were also you sang in bands in high school and things like that, and right out of high school too. Tell me
Yep.
about a couple of the bands you were in, or at least the biggest band, or like. Cause I've seen photos of you with the hair with Gumby on
Oh
stage.
yeah.
Like, what were
Well,
the band names? What was the kind of stuff you did? Is any of that stuff out there anywhere?
I have one. I'll tell you about the bands. I do have one CD which was recorded where we just hit record and play, and it was a practice, and somebody burned it on the CD. I wish we came out with at least a demo because back then it was either the 4 tracks and the 8 tracks,
Yeah,
and
I
they
remember
always
that.
sound like shit. So I don't really have any copies of that,
But you
but
have the CD.
I do have a CD. I can play it for you next time I see it. It's hilarious.
Oh no, you gotta let me get a copy of that to put on
Oh
this
yeah,
radio. It's
no.
gonna be the theme song to this episode.
Well, you know what's funny is like people that I've run into because thank God for something like Facebook where people that I didn't talk to for years all of a sudden came out of the woodworks. Hey, Rich, I've been everybody who I know from that era is like, oh my God, I would buy that. I want to buy that because it was so the first band I was in. I was at a battle. I'll start in the beginning. I went to go see a battle of the bands my brother was playing in Southington. So I was just going crazy. I was moshing around, dancing, and this kid, the guitar player for one of the bands, goes, "You're crazy. Do you want to be our singer?" He had no idea if I could sing or not. Just, "You want to be our singer? You're
Also
crazy."
make you scream, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we started a band, and it was R.I.P. Not really original. So I just wanted to make it as fun as I could, like regurgitated intestinal parts. Rich is pissed. Why is Rich pissed? Because everybody thinks Rich is pregnant. I mean, we're just R.I.P. stood
All
for
right, you could be whatever you meant it to be that night.
yeah, so
That's
that
fun.
we came out with about 5 or 6 songs. We never, like I said, never came out with a demo, but back then the scene was so great where everybody knew everybody else. So all the bands were friends. Like, hey, we're doing a show. You want to be on this show? Hey, we're playing at the Brick in New Haven. Do you want to be on it? Hey, what about the Anthrax in Norwalk? Come on.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we did so many shows, never had a demo up. And then that band broke up, which actually I wish I could find this because I think somebody did film it. I don't know where it is, but the band broke up on stage at the Brickenwood. People were just walking off in the middle. Ended up being just me and the drummer doing Funky Cold Medina dancing
Oh
around.
my gosh.
It was the best thing ever.
And you think somebody might have footage of that?
I gotta find that somewhere because it is hilarious.
Okay, internet, you heard that. He needs to find footage of that. Somebody filmed it.
Whoever's watching that and whoever filmed it, please let me know. So then
Yes.
another band came out, and it was called Fatal Image, which I call AKA Fatal Mistake, which I'm kidding because if they're watching it, I really did love the band.
No, it's
But
just fun to make fun of yourself, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they had a song called Ritual of the Walking Dead. I said, come on, man, I can't sing this seriously. So I bought this inflatable Gumby doll, and I just bring it up on stage and start moshing around with it, change the Ritual of the Walking Gumby. And believe it or not, people still remember, hey, you're actually, when you're editing in my next interview, Sad Plant, I said, do you remember a Gumby? That was you? Oh my God.
That's fun, really.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Because it was similar, just like with you. I said, I cannot believe we never met. And then we found out that we did all the same things, so we're all the same places. And then he remembered Gumby. So it was just, I just loved doing all the band scenes, having fun. And then I realized, I said, I'm not going to make any money from it. I'm having a great time doing it. If I can't make money from playing music, maybe I can make money talking about music. And
That's where radio came in.
and that's where I started to go into all the luau's and became friends with all the disc jockeys. And they're like, oh my God, you're perfect for the station. You have the great mentality, you have the right look. And I said, yeah, this seems like fun. Let's do this. So
You're the
sort of
face for
morphed
radio.
from, what's that?
Yeah, you definitely have a face for radio, the right look. No, just kidding.
No, you're not.
Yeah. So okay, so then you did the band thing, and what made you stop doing the band stuff? Was it just you lost interest, or
No, I was, a little bit. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like around 21, 22 years old, and I was in another band called Conniption. And after that, I just said, yeah, let me, my interest started to wane a little bit with music.
Yeah,
I still
been
love
there.
music, and that's when I got into radio. And so that sort of like, it's great because as we go through the interview, you're going to find out like almost everything I did led to the next step. Like one
It's like,
door opened another door. It was great.
yeah, well,
Like,
I can relate to that too.
yeah.
So leading into the radio, obviously, we talked more about radio already. We can go back to it too, but I just kind of want to keep the flow going, and then we can have our 90 minute of chit chat. Obviously, we want to get your story out there though. So
Yeah.
after radio, what was next?
After radio, I'm trying to think what I did. I'm
That when
trying
you
to think
took
of
your little break from the world, the creative world, for lack of a better way to put it.
In a way, that's when I had to get a real job, sort of in a way. So like that sort of got in the way where I was like before I was just working like 9 to 5, and I'd just be able to party all night and play in the bands, and then I did radio. I did for a while, so I was trying to think after radio. I think I know what it was. A friend of mine wanted to do a documentary, so I said,
Oh,
all right,
okay. And
all right,
you?
let's do it. And unfortunately, you're gonna laugh. We
Was
were
this a documentary about you?
no, there was
Oh,
a,
okay.
it was a documentary about we were this came out before the one that won the Oscar, and that's why we stopped doing it. It was where we were trying to start our own religion, see how many people we can get to follow us. And we were trying to see like let's see, and we were going around just trying to like let's see because we were talking about like how gullible people are and how people are easily led. And then right in the middle of filming it, somebody won an Oscar for I can't remember the name of the movie, but
Yeah.
there's a
Same
documentary where the
concept
guy
though.
actually did it.
Oh wow.
And so then from there, another one of his friends. Actually, it's funny. The girl Jillian who played was on the show.
The radio, the
We
thing we
did
just
we do a
recorded.
radio show. That's his niece.
Okay.
So he and I were said we gotta let's he's the one that came out with the publishing company. He goes, I want to write a TV sitcom. I said, well, I'll help you do it. So we came out with The Prophet and the Healer. He was the prophet and I was the healer. I had cerebral palsy. I'm trying to heal people. I can't even heal myself. It was funny. So there was this.
That's actually a really good concept.
Yeah, but it was funny because we went to there was a pitch exchange. It was called in New York City where we have to pitch our show to all these different studios.
They don't do that kind of stuff
It was fun.
anymore.
We did actually. I think I might be wrong, but I think one of the people there, he wasn't there, but his studio there, I think it was P Diddy. I think he had at that time. This was
Rich, you got some lube on your. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I thought I got that stained. I can't even get that off anymore.
Yes. Oh
But-
man. So we're going into the 90s now, obviously. Like the
Yeah, so now we're to
second
like-
half of the 90s, early 2000s, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, because radio was lasted from 91 to 90, 92 to 97, really. But
Yeah,
in
Pete Diddy
between
got
radio,
really big and then like around 97, like as a solo act. He was, yeah.
Yep. So we
Okay.
did that. We did, and that never. We unfortunately we didn't really pursue that as much as we wanted to because all of a sudden then other interests came out, and
Life gets in the way. Yeah.
life gets in the way. But then my friend said, "Well, you know what? I always wanted to do stand-up comedy." I said, "You know what? If you go down there, I'll go down there and support you." And I got up on stage. I got that first laugh, and I was hooked. So I did that. Ended up doing that for.
It's funny because you're saying how shy you were, but you were
I
okay.
know.
Your reports in front of people are telling your stories, so that makes sense. That getting in front of people to do stand-up was like okay with you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's weird because something just snapped me. I don't know what it was. I don't know why it was. It's not like I made a conscious decision. I just said, yes, let's do it. And right after it started to happen around 11th grade. And after I graduated high school, that's when I joined the first band. And I don't know what happened. It just all of a sudden, I never looked back.
We look back, we mature, we change, and puberty does weird things to us, So that's cool. So then you started doing stand-up around that time, like late 90s,
No, that was
early 2000s.
early 2000s, yes.
Okay, yeah.
I did that for a couple years, and I did in 4 years, not all shows, but 400 mics. So there was a lot of
Good mic
work
bits.
shows. Yeah, so I did over 400 in front of people, if you want to say, but like in 9 different states.
That's cool.
So I
Yeah.
did let's see, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Tennessee, Maine. There's like 2 more. I can't remember, but I used to do sometimes like 4 states in a week. I would just go
Just
from
cruise, yeah.
because the best thing about Connecticut is we're so close to everything. I would go from Connecticut one night, the next night be Rhode Island, the night after that be New York, the next night after that be Massachusetts. Then I'm like, let me go to Maine. I would drive sometimes.
That's a plus about being where we are is
Yeah.
everything's 2 or 3 hours away if you want to get to the state. Like Pennsylvania, 4 hours, depending on where if you want to go to like certain areas, but like Allentown, whatever. So yeah, it's great. We live in a spot where you can be somewhere in a day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did. And it was so funny because they have all these on Facebook, all these different groups. We're all different comedians, and I'm watching the chat. They're like, "How do I get shows?" And somebody, I don't even know who these people were. Like, there's this guy named Rich Sayre. He knows what he's doing. I don't know.
Ask him.
I don't know who his agent is, but you got to talk to him. So then people were getting in touch with me. Who's your agent? I said, I don't have an agent. How do you get your shows? I said, I just go down there, I talk to people, and I network.
It's amazing, and we've talked about this in other videos, I think too. What people will say yes to if you just ask.
Yes.
Like just ask. Just reach out and ask. This is for every creative person watching right now. If you have an idea and you're not sure how to, like, you want to do stand up in your favorite coffee shop has never done stand up before, but you want to try your stuff out there, just ask them if you can go there on a Thursday afternoon and do your stand up. They'll probably say yes.
Yeah.
It's just like, like it's just funny how places will just, yeah, oh, sure. You know, that's how you and I really connected. We were like, let's
Oh, yeah.
maybe we'll do something. And then it was just like, do you think you want to do it? Yes, yes. Like after that one show we did, like, yeah, which, it's just, yeah. So then you did the stand up, and this is around like I met you in 2020.
Yes.
So this is all before we met. This is all before the Claws Corner started.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went, and then you did your book. We're gonna skip. I don't know if I'm skipping anything big when I go to the writing the book, because the book wasn't new when I met you. It'd been
No,
out for a couple of
that
years,
came
right?
out. I want to say that came out in 2018.
So it was out for a couple of years before we met. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
Okay.
2018. And so
I
what
have it
happened
on
with
the shelf.
that?
I can check the copyright if you want.
Yeah.
But it was probably like so like and like I remember. Where did you do the signing? What Barnes and Noble did you do the signing at?
Oh, Blueback Square in West Hartford.
Okay, so I was
Connecticut.
working there in 15, 16, and 17. So that makes sense that was 18 because it was right after I worked at that I worked at that Barnes and Noble. So if you recognize me from there, I'm sorry. But like so that's that so you were there right after. That makes
Yeah.
sense because weird thing we could have connected because you knew Rick Corbo,
Yes.
who was
He
part of the
wasn't
Elmwood
there that
Productions
night.
team, part of my team. He wasn't
Yeah.
there, but you were aware of him because of that signing, and he was aware of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was right after I left there. So your book came out in 2018. And what made you, and you always wanted to write your stories down. And I love the book.
Yeah.
I love horror short stories. My favorite type of horror is short stories usually too. So like that's like for reading. Um, and you wrote that, and we bonded over that, which was cool. We met that you were a horror writer. I'm a horror writer. Um, we're writer. We're both writers. So when the book came out though, like what, and your buddy was the publisher and all that, which is fantastic. But like, at what point did you sit down and say, okay, I'm actually gonna write these all down, put them together, and make this like make some? Was it just him saying you want to be a publisher? You already
Yeah.
had these stories together, or were you like, I want to put these together as a book and find a publisher, and he happened to just be coincidentally starting that concept?
Well, no, here I'll go back. So I sort of glossed over it before. When I was doing comedy, a friend of mine, who's now my friend, he wasn't my friend then. He was Rich. He'd be a huge inspiration to my students.
Right.
So I
Oh,
became a motivational speaker, and when I was doing
oh,
that,
that's right. We're gonna get to that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when I did that, I would just go to Barnes and Noble. I just go. So for some reason I just love getting out of the house, and it's like a different atmosphere, different. So I would just sit there and I'd write and write and write and write, and then the next day I'd just write, and it just wouldn't stop. And I was like, all right, let me write another story. So I would put each story up, and right now I cannot remember the website that it was on, but there's a place where you could just put short stories, and I would do that. And then that's when my friend put them all together. So I want to say I started the stories maybe like 2017.
Okay.
And
It
around
was only like a year before the book came out then.
yeah, yeah. And then I
Cool.
had the stories, and I was just trying to promote them. I was like putting them on Facebook all the time, trying to get people to read them. And on that website, I'd get so many comments. So and then that's when the book came out. And so I said, well, all I wanted to do was at Barnes and Noble was see if they can put my book. Maybe they have
On
a
the
little
show.
author section. Yeah. So it was the assistant manager at the time. I'm not sure what her name was. She goes, well, do you want to do a book?
Pam.
What was that?
Pam.
Yep.
Hi, Pam. I still know her. So.
So she's, do you want to do a book signing? I said, hell yeah. So the one thing I learned, just like we were talking about before, I never say no. I will say yes to every, because that you never know if something there's so many times where something failed or I didn't like as much as I thought I would. That opened the door to something else I never even knew was there.
It's fun. Like I had when we met, we talked about that, the never say no thing. And my variation on that is I'll always say yes, but
Yes.
But give me more details. Like I want to know more before I commit. But yes, let's learn about it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I do the yes, but because there's a few things I would have regretted doing. There's some things I probably do regret doing, but
Yeah.
so then the book came out. Everyone I know that's read it or seen it or like they're late. Everyone loves it, which is cool. So that's got to be a good feeling to know that you had a good response to it. You had a bunch of signings. You were
Yeah.
doing the motivational speaker thing too, still at the same time,
Yep.
and the stand up.
Yeah.
So all that was happening at once.
Pretty much, yeah, because I was doing the stand up, and then when I was doing stand up, I did that one show, or I did for the Abilities Beyond People, and then somebody who I became friends with said, "Well, do you want to be on my public access show to talk about the book and everything?" So I did that.
Yeah.
Then he said, "Oh wait, I didn't realize you're a motivational speaker." So he actually does that. He plays all these different places. He goes, "You want to open up for me?" So I did a couple libraries with him. Then I did a school. So I said, he goes, "Man, this is great. Let's do this." So from there, somebody saw me and he's like, well, we have something at the Palace Theater in Waterbury, Connecticut, and it's called The Second Act. And
Second act,
I
yeah.
gotta say, Jeff Savage, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but we are paying homage to him with Malcolm McDuff, theater detective. I'm taking over a role that he
Oh, we're
originally.
gonna get to that. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
get to that.
And
Yeah.
but bringing that up was he's the one who goes, Rich, you really should do that. So I went down there, and it was so funny. I love stories like this because I either have like the best friends slash fans. And I'll tell you what I mean. Like when I did my comedy, I love DIY, do it yourself. If you don't like what
Oh
you're
yeah.
doing, like I used to put so many shows together. I had like 4 different places that I did shows.
DIY or die, folks.
Yep, Stonebridge, Jay Lynn's friends, and the Zen Bar, and they all So when I was doing the shows, they said every one they did was the biggest show they ever had. They at one time somebody was like there was a line out the door at 6 o'clock. Like shit,
Good.
I have to call extra people. I didn't realize it was gonna be as crazy. And when I was doing the book signing, they said I was the biggest local author book signing ever had. I sold 25 books. I ran out, and people wanted to buy more. So that brings me to the motivational speaking. The Palace Theater. All my friends are like, oh, should I buy a ticket early in case it sells out? Well, guess what, asshole?
Sold out,
It was
motherfuckers.
sold out.
Yeah.
They said it was the biggest second act they had at that time.
And that's so cool. Like, you know, it's relatable for me too. Like as your friend, like knowing that you did do that because we did that with the films. Like I've had people like, oh, you made a movie. Like when we made our first couple movies out, I'm not going to go to yours. I'll show up the night of and get a ticket. And then they're seeing it sold out online. Like, hey, can I still get a ticket? It's like, no.
I love it.
You're my friend. You should have been the first person to buy a ticket, not make fun of me for making a movie.
Exactly.
And your friend should have been the first people to be like, I'm going to support my buddy. And the lessons are learned that way too, as a friend, like, and hopefully like, and you're also the type of guy who supports his friends.
Oh yeah.
I can say that as your friend now. Like I've watched you be supportive. I've watched you buy the tickets. I've watched you share everyone's stuff and things like that. You're a good friend like that too. So that's cool that you can actually look at some of the people that gave you a hard time and be like, well,
yep.
Next time, maybe you'll be at the next one, like
exactly.
But like, and that's a good feeling. It's got to be too to know that you're selling out, that you're having these great experiences, especially early on. Because he's like putting a book out is a new thing for you, but doing a motivational speaker was a new thing for you, and then you're selling out. Like that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great feeling, and especially when you walk up there on stage, and I love that instant gratification. You get out there, and the audience is there, and you feed off
there,
energy.
Yeah. And it lands. The worst thing is when it doesn't land. So when it lands, and luckily I can knock on wood here. Been lucky most of my stuff in front of an audience has landed. Like I've only had one really bad experience, and it was so funny that it was worth it. But like, and you know the same thing. Your jokes land, your stuff lands, and you get good audience participation, and so this is all going on, and then WAPJ comes up.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet? How did you become part of that? How did you meet Joe and get involved in that?
Well, when I was doing comedy, I saw there was another woman. She had a call. It was off the cuff show. I was on that show, and I saw that an article was written about her by Joseph Timothy Quirk. So I said, "Oh man, I gotta see if he can write an article about me." So I just reached out to him and said, "Hey Joe, my name is Rich Sayre. I would love to have you do an article."
Good for you for just going for it.
Yeah. And so then
because he had the Nutmeg, what was it called? He had that website.
Yeah, well, it's not. No, Nutmeg Junction is his.
Right, but what was the show called? He had a website, Nutmeg something as well, like Nutmeg News or something.
Yeah, something like that. He had a bunch of different things. Like he had the.
That's how I met him too, because he reached out to me to do an interview with me.
Yep.
And then we worked on a show. We actually did a live show together where he was an actor in it. I was a puppeteer in it. We did 2 shows actually, and that's how I got to know him. But I don't remember what the show not Nutmeg Junction.
Yeah, I can't remember.
3 in the morning, I'll remember.
Yeah, I remember that thing, the Black Tie Lunchbox, which was another show.
That was the comic shop, the comic thing he did, the comic strip, right?
Yep. Yeah, okay. And then he had like about 4 different things, and so the first one he did is he wrote an article, and you can look it up. It's great. It's called "Rich Sayre Clawing His Way Up to the Top."
Of course.
And there's now it's a restaurant, but there used to be a place in Torrington called the Performance Hub, and they had comedy there. So he interviewed me there, and it was great because, and even in the article he mentions this, he goes, as soon as Rich walked in, everybody's like, Rich, everybody starts cheering. It was perfect for the article because it wasn't planned or anything, but it's just, I happen to know everybody there. And cool. So we became friends, and then he said, well, want to have you as a guest because he wanted to start these radio shows called Nutmeg Junction.
Nutmeg Junction, right?
Yeah,
And you were, and he had you on that. I was on that too. Yeah.
yep. So, and what happened with that, I was only supposed to be a guest because the way he did it was originally he had like a musical guest, he had an interview with either an author, poet, whatever, so a creative person, didn't matter who it was.
He does this, and Joe's got this great thing where he does like old time radio, like
Yeah.
it's kind of that vibe. Like, yeah, he does like the DJ voice and everything. It's really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's what he was doing. So then he would do these looks. He wanted to pay homage to the old radio serials like Flash Gordon, War of the Worlds, all these great things, but they were all original. So he was.
He did the radio dramas. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to stay and do a couple of voices? I'm like, all right. So I did a couple of voices. So I became the first guest who became the first part of the show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And he does the Nutmeg Junction, which is like old time radio shows, and he does the Barnaby Druthers, which is one of those other shows within that. He has a couple different shows he was producing, right?
Yeah. Well, at the time,
besides his interview shows, he was also doing those. Yeah.
Because Nutmeg Junction was first, and that lasted for a long time. Then he did Barnaby Druthers, and that just took off. That show's played in New Zealand, Australia, all over the world. It's really, really popular.
So how did you end up taking over the interview show for him, though?
All right, so when he was doing Nutmeg Chatter, that's what it was called.
That was the interview show. Nutmeg Chatter was the interview show, yes.
So he was doing that, and then...
That's the name I was looking for before. Nutmeg something. Nutmeg Chatter,
well, there was something before, too. That's why he did like 4 different things, because I was part of it. I didn't even mention this. I was part of an improv group for a while, and then he came and interviewed me with the Black Tie Lunchbox on that show in Seymour. So there's a whole bunch of different things. But with Nutmeg Chatter, he wanted to interview me because I just came out with the book.
Mm-hmm.
So he interviewed me, had a great time, and then I said, well, I have a couple other people that would love to be on your show. He said, well, why don't you interview them? I said, okay. So I interviewed one person. I said, I have another person. Well, Rich, why don't you just take over the show? I said, okay.
Those of you who don't know Joe,
yeah,
in Connecticut, especially in that corner of Connecticut, the Torrington corner, he's like a local legend.
My God, yeah.
And he's on that radio station constantly on WAPJ, and he really hustles. Like, he's always out there. He's always doing 1,000 things. So I can see why he was like, yeah, Rich, you're good at interviewing people. You do it.
Yeah.
So you got the show from him at that point.
Yeah, I took it over. I just got to do a shout out to Joe because people who do know him, it's like 2 full-time jobs, one during day, one at night, 2 kids. He comes up with the best scripts. I don't know. He does all the editing, puts all the sound effects together. So when people say,
I have one of his scripts right here.
when people use the comment like, "Oh, I don't have time for that," I'm like, talk to my friend Joe. There's no excuse. If you really
have no idea what time is.
Just like you too. I mean, like, all right, I know all the things. You have a full-time job, and you're still making movies. You still have time to do things. If people really want to do it, they can. But yeah, so I found the time to do it, and I said I love doing this show, and I did it for the longest time. And the best thing is,
you did it for like 3 years, right?
Yeah, I did it for.
It's a long time. Yeah.
And for me, people always laugh when I say this, but the best thing that ever happened to this radio show was COVID. I love COVID for that. I'm serious.
Yeah. Well, you have to find the positives in horrible things like that.
Yeah,
like for me, like when COVID hit, I was going full steam ahead and not taking a break, and COVID hit, and I had to put the brakes on, and I needed it for my health. I realized that at that time, like my mental health and my physical health, because I was just nonstop. But I also learned new things because of it, and I made new friends because of it, like you. COVID was great for you and your show because no one could go home. No one could go out.
Yeah.
So you could interview anybody they didn't have to go to the radio station anymore to be interviewed. Yeah. Zoom, which we're on right now, became this huge thing, video chats. And so your show got a whole new life. Nutmeg Chatter got a whole new life because of Zoom. And then you parlayed, if this is the right word, parlayed that into your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Which is the best because, and I thank you all the time, but I'm going to thank you on the air again because I love doing the show. This is the most fun I've had. I loved it. And the best thing.
And making it a YouTube thing was like, you wanted to do it. Yeah. But it wasn't until you and I connected that you had somebody who could help you with it.
Yeah. No, because
I was like, hell yeah, I want to help you with it. Let's make this happen. Because I also want to learn more about editing, and I kind of wanted to be part of a podcast, but I didn't know what I should do because like everyone in the world is a podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I would say every white guy over 40 has a podcast. And they all talk about nothing. Like, and and that's why people are like, how come you don't do a podcast, John? Like, people ask me still. I'm like, what am I going to bring to the table that's different?
Yeah.
But doing the Claws Corner stuff with you is different. doing the real talk or doing episodes of Claw's Corner or being on the local artist show, it is different. It brings something different to the table. It's not just talking about pop culture stuff. I'm a nerd who likes pop culture. Let's just talk about that. You take it to another level because you were like, no, I'm going to do research. We're going to dig deeper. So that's where I was kind of building up to talking about you and I, because my ego knows no bounds either, just like yours. But
Very
what I
true.
was building up to was like talking about how you nutmeg chatter and how that led into it. So you kind of organically brought us there, which is great. So you were doing nutmeg chatter for when I met you. How long were you doing? Because I met you in February of 2020. How long were you doing nutmeg chatter at that point?
I'm
Because I
looking.
did nutmeg chatter with Joe in like 2016 or 17. Maybe it was earlier. I just don't remember the dates now. But
I want to say probably.
15. I did 15 probably
I
or
want to say
something.
probably late 2018, maybe early
Okay.
2019. So it's only
So
doing
you
for
did
about
about 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So and the only thing that we could do is I could because the phones weren't working, so I couldn't even have phoning guests.
Right.
We have guests that were in the
In
studio.
person.
And it's funny, I mentioned this to you before, and Joe and I talked about this recently. He doesn't even remember saying it, but he goes, I have this guy, and he's the only guest that he's referred so many people to my show, but you're the only person. He goes, there's this guy named Jon Bristol, Elmwood Productions, great guy, very talented. I have a feeling you two are going to be friends, you're going to be working together. And he just said it so matter of
Wow, that's
factly.
funny.
I know, but he's never said that about anybody else but you. And then when
That's
I
cool.
met you, like, so we talked about you, and then
We
after we got
did
on the air,
your
we talked for another 45 minutes
Yeah,
about
we
all
did like the show's like a half hour if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
That's
And we talked for like 20 minutes beforehand, like a half hour after at
yeah.
least. Yeah. It was great. Yeah. But I remember getting the message from Joe. He's like, hey, do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, I actually have the screening coming up in March.
Yep.
That didn't happen, but because COVID. But I'm like, it'd be great to go on it because it'll go. When will it go up? He's like, oh, in early March. I'm like, perfect. It'll go up in the beginning of March. I can promote my screening. That's perfect timing. Yeah, I'd love to do it. And here we are, 5 years later. Literally, it was February.
I don't remember, but
I feel like I went to see you the end of February.
yes, it was definitely in
It
February.
was like the second half of February, and then the shows supposed to go up in like the beginning of March,
Yep.
and then COVID, like the lockdown happened the second Friday in February. In fact, second Friday in March. I remember that was, and we were both like, well, now what? And then I'm like, well, I guess the screening is being postponed too. So I don't even care if the interview goes up right now because we're there to promote a screen. But I'm like, well, it should go up. And then we started creating this YouTube channel together for you,
Yeah.
the Claus Corner YouTube channel. I mean, you already had the YouTube channel, like the name set up. You had a YouTube account. You had
Yeah.
no videos on. You set a bunch of favorites and playlists,
Pretty much. I had
and
nothing else.
then we branded it, which was fun. So that's how. So if you guys are wondering how Rich and I ever met, that is literally we met because of the prototype of this show was Nutmeg Chatter,
Yeah.
and then it became the Claus Corner, and then Claus Corner starts,
Mhm.
and right off the bat, man, you're getting Reggie Bannister.
Oh my
You
God, that was the best. And
Wallace.
what I loved, well, first of all, I love the fact that you interviewed Reggie with me, and
That if I'm not mistaken, that was his last like nationally released interview
I'm
on
pretty
video.
sure. No, I think it
Yeah.
was.
I know he did some cons and things after that, but he didn't do any more like big appearances with him and Gigi together. Didn't do anything. Haven't done anything.
No.
In some ways I'm grateful for you for that because I love Phantasm. I love Bubba Hotep.
Yeah.
And like and getting to sit there and chat with Reggie and his wife and Gigi was just wild.
I
So
know.
it was surreal because it was during lockdown. Like I know we're kind of going on tangents now, but that was the plan was to get to here so we can go on these tangents. But
Yeah.
like I remember because we were trying to get them for months, like 2 or 3 months, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh
They
my God.
kept
Yeah.
postponing.
I wasn't sure what was going on because nobody knew Reggie was sick.
No, yeah.
Fortunately, he has Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. People don't
Also,
know.
yeah.
But at the time, Gigi, his wife, was saying, "Oh, well, he's got to cancel." And at first, I'm like, "She's just blowing me up." But weird thing is, she keeps on saying, "Let's do it this time." But so she
She
kept
kept
on,
rescheduling though. It wasn't a
yeah,
full
she kept,
blow off. Yeah.
yeah. So I said, "All right." So I'm very determined when I want something. I'm gonna keep going at it, going at
Yeah.
it, going at it. And
Oh yeah.
finally, she goes, "All right, let's do it." I'm like, "John, she's ready."
I'm like, okay, okay. And then the next big one you had, the next like nationally known celebrity.
Yep.
You got some other. I would like Opus is a pretty nationally known guy if you really
Yeah.
know who he is in the community.
In the local scene, yeah.
And he's been on some TV shows and things like that. So if you recognize him, like, oh, it's that guy, you know.
Yeah.
And you had a couple like a Morbid Vision. What's his name?
Brian
Brian.
Paul, and yeah, he's another
Yeah,
one. He
like,
lives in Massachusetts, so in that area,
but
he's
his
really,
films are like out there, like Head is out there. His films are out there,
yeah,
like so if you're into that kind of underground horror, you might know who he is. And then you got Dee Wallace.
yes,
And like and I was so bummed. I don't get sick very often. My friends will tell you that, my family will tell you that. And the night of, I came home from, I left work early, which I never do, and I was dead. And I'm like, Richard, doing it alone. And I wanted to talk to D so bad because
Oh,
E.T. and Howling, but E.T. is like
yes.
a movie that's like so important and so dear to my heart. And like, and I couldn't do it because I didn't want to be there. I'm like, I'm like, no, and I knew you had all the questions already, and I'm like, just do it. You're serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And we, I don't know if that was a real talk or a clause corner at
That
that
was a
point.
close corner.
We made that a clause. I think that was
Yep.
a decision we made that if it wasn't a two Peterson conversation, it would be a clause corner.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was when we made that decision, which makes more sense, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best interviews we've ever done.
Yeah. I appreciate. What I want to say about
We
that
were
one.
still figuring it out at that point, which is
I
good.
was. Yeah, and what I loved about that too is that like what you just said is like somebody who's, and she even says it. We made a promo out of it, and I love that. She goes, Rich, I've done 1,000 of these interviews, and I just love the questions. Thank you so much. We
You
love
do?
people who do research like you.
Yeah.
For somebody of that stature who's done, like she said, thousands, to say that to me,
She's answered the same questions 10,000 times.
exactly,
And you came in with new questions.
that's why
Or new takes on the same questions too.
Yeah, well, that's what, because I was going through it and I saw like one of the first things she did, like brought in some muffins and snuck onto the set, and that's how she got one of her. She goes, "Wow, how'd you find out about that?" So I mean, I was going like digging really. That's why I love like another one was Ted Neely from Jesus.
Ted Neely was great. Yeah,
He said the same thing. He goes, "I gotta stop you right there." He goes, "Man, this is amazing." And so for people like that, I mean,
he was one of, I don't remember if you mentioned it or not, and maybe you didn't. I don't remember because I mean I edit these shows, but you've done so many. Yeah,
it's like 200.
He was at one point like he was one of Meatloaf's backing vocalists.
Yes.
Like people don't know that about Ted Neely.
Yep.
You knew that.
Yep.
I don't remember if you mentioned it on the show, but I know we talked about it at some point. I don't remember if you. I think you do mention it, don't you?
I think I mentioned that because I also
if you
talked
don't,
about
you
how
didn't.
he sang. He came out with a couple of records, and he was on Starsky and Hutch, and so things I had no idea. So yeah, I think I did mention that, and that's when he goes, he goes, I love the fact that not only do you have the facts, but you actually have something to talk about, the backup, where you got the information from. So people like that, and that's when I started. Because what I do is whenever I do an interview, and I just say I watch different things, listen to different things, and like you said, they ask the same questions over and over and over.
And it gets tiresome.
Yeah. So I said, I'm not gonna. If I ask that question, I'm gonna talk about it, but I'm gonna put a different spin on it. And yeah, but I usually go for like another example. I'm just using different examples of what you're talking about.
That's what we're doing now. Yeah. This is the free form part of the show now, so we can just go crazy from here. Yeah.
The character, my mind went blank. The character actor who played in Wolf of Wall Street, he's been in like over 100 movies. He played with.
Hold on. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank on his name too, but I will go to your YouTube channel right now.
He was such a great guest and such a funny guest. He goes, when I was doing the intro, he goes, "Oh my God," he goes, "I forgot about half the shit you just mentioned."
And that's what's funny is like a lot of these other actors, like a lot of these actors that you bring on, for lack of a better way, a lot of these actors you bring on, or performers, things like that. A lot of them are character actors. A lot of them are B actors. I'm not trying to be mean right now by calling them B actors either. I'm saying they're not at this like level of lead actors. Mm-hmm. And these people work. They're always working. They have to make more than one movie a year to keep their health insurance and things like that. So a guy like him is working year round. So you're bringing up these movies he did 10 years ago, whatever. And he's like, wow, I forgot I did that. And that's always fun. Like when you had Max Gale on, he was like, oh, you knew about that. Like so many people want to talk to him because of what the hell was the name of that show? Barney Miller. But they don't know that he's an Emmy Award winner for being on a soap opera. Because they're so focused on Barney Miller, I didn't know that about him until you were interviewing him. Like, oh, he was on a soap. I didn't even know it. Didn't even know that.
Well, that's why I love like
PJ Byrne.
PJ Byrne, thank you. Yep, and it's so funny. He's one of these people. I call him like.
And you had him on kind of early. You had him on in the first year.
Yeah, because I said that he is the bastard child of Dick Miller and Daniel Roebuck, because it's sort of like those two are like people that you see like. I know that guy from somewhere. PJ Byrne has been in tons. I mean,
tons of stuff. Yeah, I don't know who he was, and then you sent me the video because I got PJ Byrne. I'm like, okay, sure. Then I opened the video and I'm like, oh, that guy.
Yeah. So that's why I said, take this as a compliment. You were like the bastard. He goes, no, that's great. I love that. I said, everybody, like just the other day, I was showing my girlfriend Babylon, and there was PJ playing an assistant director. Then I showed him something else,
which is a weird movie, but yeah, or like in the musicians you've had on, like you just had Vinny, is it Appice or Appice?
He's Appice's brother, Carmine Appice. Vinny,
it's Appice is really like I know they joke about how they pronounce the name, but you've had both of them on, which is really cool, like. and they both have such different careers. Or you've had like the people who used to own the Conjuring house.
Yes.
Um, you've had like just so many like really like interesting, and then like some of the local, before you started the local artist show with Weibo, you had a lot of local people. You still do a lot of local people
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
Connecticut region, and some authors. Like you had the guy that did the whole Rod Sterling book,
yeah. Mark DeWitziak.
Dewitziak. I want to say DeWitowitz, but I know it was right, Dewitziak.
And I got to have him on
For the
again
women
because
who
he came
wrote
out with a
the
book. He came out with a book in Edgar Allan Poe, and I want to talk to him about that. I read the book a
cool.
couple of years ago, and it's a great book. But I want to do more research on it because
But you also had like the Carol
oh, Carol, for
Carol Ford. The What was the guy's name?
oh, for Bob Crane.
The Bob Crane authors, and
Yes.
they were that. I mean, that was one of your marathon. And we're gonna talk about this for a minute. There, Rich does these things sometimes where his interviews go for 12 hours. So, audience, if you know,
Kidding.
and this episode is going to turn into one of those, I think, is we're almost an hour into it, and I feel like we're just still getting started. But like Rich does these things sometimes where his episodes, and I'm the editor, by the way, I have to edit these things, and I don't edit anything out. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
There's one of your guests I want to talk about when it comes to editing in a little bit.
Okay.
But Rich will send me these like 4-hour videos, and every time I'm like, "Do you want to cut it?" And he's like, "I don't want to cut anything out, but can we make it 2 or 3 episodes? Because there's great parts to break." And then in other episodes, there's no break, so it's just a 3 or 4 hour episode. And the Bob Crane one was one of those that became 2 episodes, I think. Yeah, it was 2 episodes. But you've had a couple that were 3, 4. Like Max Gale was a 3-parter.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, just
You had him for 6 hours, I think, almost.
yeah.
Like,
Well, you
which
know
is
what's
just
great,
so cool.
and here's what I love about it. One of the best compliments I get, which we mentioned before, but is when somebody like the other day I interviewed Lynn Griffin, or a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, who played in Black Christmas, Strange
Yep.
Brew. I mean, she's coming out with a movie called with Amanda Seyfried. It's coming out this weekend called
Yep.
Seven Veils.
Seven
But anyway,
Veils, yep.
so she goes, I can't believe we've been talking for 2 hours. She goes, and her husband said, she goes, Lynn, you've been talking for 3.5 hours. She goes, what?
3 hours, and I think that episode I just finished editing it. It just came out like 3 weeks ago. I think it was 320.
Yep.
Hold on. We go to YouTube.
323.
323.05. I'm looking at your YouTube page right now.
But it's funny
like,
because
but then you'll bring on like the most random dude. Like you had a guy who was just like he like rock climbs.
yes.
Like just because you met him, you thought he was cool, you wanted to bring him on to interview him.
Yeah.
Like I think that's great. Or like you look at like you'll find like a local band you really like, and you'll bring them on. Or like you had Sammy Hagar's kid on.
Yeah, Andrew. He's a and you
I
know
mean, he's a
what?
good musician in his own right. Don't get me wrong, but he's
No, yeah,
you
but
know
what I love about him is because we did a 2-parter. That's one of the ones.
his
Where
was a 2-parter. Yeah.
but then after the interview was over, he goes, "I want to be on the show again." I said, "Well, what else do we have to talk about?" He goes, "Let's just talk about music. I love talking to you. Man. This is so much fun." And another example of that. This is why I love doing the show because I get to meet all these great people, and these people have so many interests in it. But when James from Love on the Spectrum.
Yes, and you're friends with him now. You become a friend of his.
He's
and
messaged me
he's
the other day.
Essentially,
No,
your
sorry,
co-host now on Real Talk instead of me, which is fine.
Well, no, but he goes. He just messaged me 2 days ago. He goes, Rich, are we doing another show soon? I said, hell yeah.
Heck yeah, whenever you want, buddy. Yeah.
We're gonna do the heavy metal series.
The 2 movies?
Yep, heavy metal and the heavy metal 2000.
Oh, that's cool. Now I can't wait to see. I have some feelings about those movies, so that's cool. I can't wait to see what you guys talk about.
Oh boy.
So like I want to talk a little bit about the show. How like what I love about your interview style is you don't edit things.
Yeah.
Like anyone who's watched the show, you'll see cuts. Like there's a glitch, a microphone cuts out. We'll cut till it gets fixed. Like you don't really edit the content.
No, I love the content.
In the history of me being your editor, there have been like 4 things you've asked to have removed, but it was because somebody got too personal and they didn't want to. Oh, it was usually like the person you interviewed was like, "Hey, can you cut that?
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't have been talking about my mom's masturbation habit, or whatever it would be, like so like, but like, and I'm not gonna name names on the guest or anything, but you had this one episode that was a marathon episode. You had an actor on.
Mhm.
It's just proof how like if you ever want to be on Rich's show, how real it is. He had this guy on, and I'm editing it. Now, I didn't know anything about this guy. I'd never even seen the movies he was in, the movies you guys were talking about. I saw the original movie that he was in the sequels of, so I'd never seen his. And as I'm watching and editing, I like Google the guy, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's just full of shit. Like, and I'm like, everything this guy said, like, and everyone on the internet, everyone's calling him full of shit. Everyone's saying this guy's full of shit. Everything he says is a lie.
Yeah.
And then we finished the episode, and one thing Rich has never, I'll give this Rich credit for this. Most of the people he interviews, they're just like their agents, their managers, themselves. Just put it out. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
And this was one of those. We just put it out. And then right after it was out, the guy's agent or manager reached out to you, and they were like, "Hey, can you cut because they asked for a copy of the video before it was even edited.
I know.
You sent it to him. He's like, whatever, I don't care. They didn't know it was out. And it had been out for like 4 days. And they sent you a thing saying, hey, before it's released, can you cut this, and this out? And we're talking like an hour of the interview, which was fine because it was so long.
Yeah.
And it was like, and we were both laughing because it already had like over 200, 300 views, I think, on YouTube or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
We're like,
I think 500. It had
was
like
it 500? Okay.
Yeah.
And we were like, So I immediately go, you sent it to me. And I'm just like, and you're like, oh, this isn't a problem. And I'm just like laughing. I'm like, it's not a problem. It might take a couple of days, but I'll take it off YouTube right now. So I took it. I made it unlisted or I made it private. The video is still sitting there. So if somebody saved it, they can probably still watch it. And then we had to recut it. And you were like, can we put a disclaimer on it? Because that's what's cool about you is you're like, you don't want to censor things.
No, not at all. That pissed me off.
You know, we're not with the FCC. We're not worried about radio. And you were like, we put a disclaimer saying, you know, we don't cut things, but there are things cut from this one. And I thought that was really cool of you to say. Like,
yeah.
And then it went out and they did, all right, they're cool. You know?
Yeah.
But it was just one of those weird things. Like this show is so natural. Like the conversations are so natural to have to like cut out this guy talking about how he's like a 12-time black belt.
No.
And it wasn't Steven Seagal, funny enough. But might as well have been.
I was just like, gonna say his stories are as believable as Steven Seagal's.
But like I love that. But what I like is that like not talking about him anymore, but talking about like you in general is you connect with these people, which is really cool, you know.
Yeah.
And you have to be cool to do that. You have to be natural to connect with people, you know.
Well, another example, and this is what I love. This happened at least 3 or 4 times where somebody said, "Oh, we're still recording." I thought we were just talking. They didn't realize that there was a couple musicians.
The show was over, yeah.
And then one of the cuts, which I think this one's hilarious. This was a singer, and she was talking about. I said, "Well, what clubs you play?" "Well, with my fake ID." She's,
"Oh yeah."
So I started laughing
because she was still a minor.
Yeah,
talking about how she had a fake. I don't think she's a minor anymore. But...
No, not anymore. No, she's 20. She's 20 now, but she was like
she was talking about like her, but she couldn't get at 18. You have to be 18 to play in clubs and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I laughed was that the conversation was sort of like just it wasn't an interview. We were just talking, and she was, "Oh my god, I didn't mean to say that." Yeah. And so really, there's only been 3 times, and the other one actually is PJ Byrne because he was talking about the guy who he played in Wolf of Wall Street. He goes, "I don't know, I really don't want to badmouth anybody. Can you just cut that out?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem."
Yeah, and there was nothing wrong with that. Like even what he said wasn't that bad. But I can understand where he's coming from. You know, like.
Yeah,
but we don't censor the show. Is what we're trying to say.
Not at all. I
know when it was going to WAPJ, they had to censor stuff because people would drop F-bombs and things, which is different. Like that's a whole different thing. The content is never censored, and that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I never ever want to censor because even there's a guest coming up. She's a comedian, Joanna Raposa. There was something she made, which I don't know if you saw this part. She was talking about Bill Burr. She was, "Oh my god!" I said, "Who gives a shit?" I said, "You can say whatever you want. That's your opinion." I think it's hilarious. Okay. So
that's this Sunday. I think her episode goes up.
Yep, yeah, it's this Sunday. So, but she's another one who was worried. I said, "Who gives a shit what people think?" I said, "That's your opinion of them. I think it's hilarious. Who cares?" And she goes, "Okay, whatever you think, Rich." So I said, I hate censoring. I said, just that's what you really believe, we're not gonna.
And if she wanted us to cut it, she would have messaged you later. It's like, "Can you still cut that?" And
No, she was just worried at first. I said, "Don't worry." And she goes, "I don't want to get your audience mad." I said, "Don't worry about my audience. They're good."
No. Yeah, and what I love is that I look like I'm scrolling through right now at like your history of guests and all that, and I like that you have a really cool mixture of authors, musicians, poets, photographers, actors, directors, filmmakers, in general, bands. Like you've have this whole spectrum of really cool things, and everyone has a cool story to tell. And where I'm going with this now is a few years back, you had this buddy named Weibo Bowles, Wilbur, who had I don't know, was this a thing he was doing for YouTube first? I don't know how it became a thing, but I know that he had a thing he wanted to do. Maybe it was a show, maybe it wasn't, called the Local Artist Show. And he came to you to make it part of the Claus Corner.
Yeah. Well, what happened was he was part of a TV show, a public access show. And with Jack Williams, Jack Williams, I can remember his last name. So anyway, so I went on the show.
That's his name. Yeah.
I went on the show to promote my book, and so he was the co-host. And he goes, "Oh man, Rich, you're the coolest, man. I'd love to do a show with you." And he was doing a show with. Was that a good impression of him?
It was perfect, man. It made my heart happy.
Love to, coach. You're the man. You're the man, John.
You're the man.
Anyway, so we were doing it. He goes, "Man, you're a really cool guy. I love it." And he did a show at WAPJ called the Local Artist Show. It was like a half hour.
It was on WAPJ. Okay.
Yeah, he did a radio show, but He is like the mayor of Torrington, the whole area of
Northwest Corner. Everyone knows him.
yeah. So he brought all these guests. He said, "Man, I got this great person. Love to be on the show. Love to be on the show." I mean,
So he brought you the idea of the local artist show as a YouTube thing
yeah,
because the cable access show or the WBG thing came to an end. I'm
yeah. Well,
guessing.
no, that was still going on. He actually left the show to work with me. They
Oh
asked him
wow.
back. He goes, "No, I'm going. I'm concentrating on the local artist show." I said, "Rich and I have this thing going. I don't want to be part of that anymore." So he
And he had
actually,
a lot going on, so he was probably picking and choosing things too that made sense for him.
oh yeah. So, but that was a fun thing. I was just there was so many like I was doing the Claus Corner, doing all my research with that, but then he would just say, "Rich, can we do a show tomorrow?" I'm like,
Yeah, that's what I love about Weibo though. Is like when he had an idea, it was right now. Like he didn't understand, and I mean this in a good way. He didn't understand that like it's not that easy. Does that make sense?
yeah. No, well, you know what's funny is they had a not at his funeral, but every year they have a remembrance where they go and the day that he died, you go to the cemetery. So I got up and I told this story. I said the best thing
Memorial.
about Weibo, I said I was like he gets all these guests, and I said Weibo, you can talk on the show if you want. He goes, no man, you're good at the talking part. I'll
That's
take
what
you
killed me. It's like I remember like I'd go on the show because it was good because you guys asked me to be on it, which I'm
back.
excited about. So it was early on when you guys were still trying to get guests. I think I was like the fourth or fifth guest on it.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, oh, Weibo's gonna interview me. That'll be cool, something different. I don't really know Weibo yet. I hadn't really. I talked to him a little bit on the phone, things like that. I didn't really know him yet. And I get on the show, and it was just. I mean, he talked a little bit. It was Rich interviewing me. It was you interviewing me, which was like, this is like the Claus Corner.
I know.
But what I liked about him is he only focused on Northwest Corner or Connecticut people.
Yeah.
When I say Northwest Corner, for those of you nationally watching, that's a corner of Connecticut. It's called the Northwest, the Torrington area, that side of the state. Um, the people nickname it that. But yeah, we both just wanted to like really promote the things he liked and the people he liked. And that show went for like 32, 34 episodes,
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
he would like I said, he would say, "Can we do a show now?" So I would after a while, just like, "All right, let's do it." And then it was funny because I'm so happy about this. Like he didn't say a lot, but I don't know how many people came up to me, especially after he died. Like, Rich, you have no idea how much that show meant to him. Rich, that
Yeah.
show meant the world to him. Rich, that's the best thing. He was so proud of that. And one of his last interviews we have on the tribute show you can watch on my YouTube channel, where he's talking about like, oh yeah, it's in Canada, it's here. So, I mean, he's still raving about
Yeah,
that.
like what I liked about you guys, I just looked it up while we were talking. You guys did 30 episodes of the show.
Wow.
And like a year and a half. It wasn't that long. Like you guys weren't
Oh,
doing it for that long before he passed away.
yeah.
Um, that was and as our friend, I didn't know him as well as you did, obviously, but he was still a friend. He would call me randomly, we'd chat. He came, I seen him at he came to his premiere. I'd bump into him here and there.
Oh yeah.
Because I was spending a lot of time up in Torrington for different reasons too. Um, just a really good guy. Like, pay a little tribute during this whole anniversary show to our friend Weibo because he was just a good guy. He was one of those genuine human beings. Like, if you didn't like Weibo, then you're kind of an asshole.
I
Does that make sense?
it is true, and I say this all the time. I said he's the only person I know that I never seen anybody ever mad at him because you cannot get mad at that guy. He's like you just say he's the most genuine. And talk about promoting. He would
Oh
promote
my God, yeah.
anything and everything. He'd call up like half the time. I know you got the same messages, and they actually made fun of this at the funeral. It's like I get these messages like, "Oh yeah, Rich, it's canceled Saturday." Like, what's canceled
What are
Saturday?
you talking about? Yeah. Like, oh my God, I would get these crazy text messages from him. That's a perfect example. He sent me a message saying tomorrow's event is canceled. And at first I'm like, was there a Claus Corner thing or a Real Talk thing I was doing? So I call him. I'm thinking that maybe. So I text him. I'm like, what are you talking about? No response. What event? So I call him because I'm worried. Like maybe he thought he was messaging somebody else. He was just, oh no, there was an event that was supposed to be happening in downtown Torrington that he shared and I liked it on Facebook. So in his head, he was like, oh, John's coming, which was great. And but it was like 3 weeks earlier.
Oh wait.
But he shared it. It wasn't like that day.
Yeah.
Because if he'd sent me it like I liked it that day, and they said, hey, it's canceled. I'm like, oh, I know what he's talking about. Thank you for letting me know. Like, oh no, the thing for that. I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know though. But like, yeah, he would just send these, and I feel like I have other friends who do this too. He'd say half the message in his head and then text the other half. Like my dad does that. Like he thinks you know exactly what he's talking about. It's like you give me some background here. Like, and if I ever said that to him, like, hey, can I get a little background? He'd just call me and be like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, I miss him, man. Like I miss those weird calls at like
He
5 o'clock
definitely
in the
best.
afternoon on a Thursday for just because, like, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that, like, it's so funny because every year they have a bowling event for him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they have, and I went to the last one a couple weeks ago, and these people, I probably knew him the least amount of time. Everybody, like, he's been friends with, I've known him for like, well, I've known him for 30 years, I've known him for 45 years. I mean, he just like never loses contact with me. Like you said, he'll just message you, Rich, man, we're having a great day, Rich. The funniest, and I brought this up at the one of the remembrances at the graveyard cemetery. He was like, Rich, man, we got to get together to talk about the show. So I drive 35 minutes to 20 minutes
exactly
donuts. All of a sudden, I'd be drinking coffee. 10 minutes later, all right, man, it was great talking to you. Gotta go. So what?
Yeah, because he had this other agenda. He just wanted to see you. You know,
exactly.
Like, and his way of seeing you was like, "Oh, let's talk about the show." Instead of just saying, "Hey, can we just get together for a coffee?"
Yep.
You know, let's talk about the show. Let's get together and talk about the show. And yeah.
No, I love that, and everything we're saying is just we're paying homage to him because he is.
Yes,
we're
he was the best. I miss that stuff though. Yeah,
me too.
I was devastated when you called me. I remember it was a Wednesday, and Elmwood was prepping the film. We weren't filming that night, but we were building or prepping something to film the next week or that weekend. And you called me, and I was just like, it took the wind out of me because I didn't know he was sick. You didn't know he was sick. Like,
no, he didn't say a word. I mean, there's things that made me wonder. Like he'd start getting up, he couldn't sit down, and his back. He was, oh, no, I'm fine.
And he was older. Like, and I didn't realize how old he was either. I thought he was only like in his 60s. I didn't realize how old he was. I didn't, because he was always so fit. Like, I didn't realize, and he had the energy, you know.
Exactly. He was doing everything. Boy Scouts, helping, volunteering, homeless shelters. He was doing so much. And you know what's funny? I want to talk about like how much of an impact he had on people without him even realizing it. Like every time he would text me or call me, it's like, and my girlfriend's name is Sarah. Tell Sarah I said hi. And I said, okay. So
I was single through most of the time I knew him, but he would always ask how my life was, you know, and not just, you know, and I knew where he was going with that, like making sure I had somebody taking care of me, you know.
Well, no, the funny thing about that is that when I told Sarah, I said, yeah, Weeble's just that, she started bawling her eyes out. I said, you never met him. She goes, but he's always so nice. He always said hi to me. And I've started, so he has no idea like the impact he had
on people.
From the way he reached out to everybody and talked. That's why, you know, it's so great. His wife still keeps in contact with him.
Oh, good.
Every once in a while, she'll tell Sarah I said hi.
Oh, that's cool.
She keeps it up. I love it. She loves that story. But yeah,
right, so let's move on to happier pastures, though. And like
we were doing 2 shows at the same time. Well, actually, no, 3 shows. Really,
3 shows at the same time. Into we both died in 2022.
Yep.
Was it 2022?
I think it was 2022.
We're gonna find out right now. I'm going to my YouTube.
Because when I went,
because 2023 is when we put the tribute episode out, so that would be 2022. Yep.
Wow. I know. I can't believe it's been that long already.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta make sure things don't start randomly playing in my computer in the background. Yeah. So the local art show essentially ended at that point because the most people you were bringing on could have easily been Claw's Corner guests without Weibo.
Yeah.
So like you just kind of curved everything that way. But here you are, like you just had Vinny on.
Vinny Appice. Yep. Drummer from Black Sabbath, Dio.
Yeah. So like you have not slowed down.
No, not at all. It's actually it's sped up a little bit.
Yeah, you know,
so many guests. I'm trying. Here's my problem. Is like I see this shiny new object. Whenever I see a guest, I'm like, all right, I gotta have you on the show.
Right.
Then somebody else comes along. I'm like, then the problem is like I want to get it out there, but I also want to do the research because I've had I have people say, well, I can come on. Like Vinny was actually one of them. He goes, well, can we do a Friday? And this was Tuesday. I said, can we give it a couple weeks? I want to do my. But with him, it was a little tough because he goes. And he makes fun of it in the interview. He goes, I only really have an hour. And he even said that. He goes, let's talk about this. Let's talk. That's why I have to come out with a book. He goes, I only have 20 minutes, but let's talk about my life.
Yeah. Well, that's what's cool, too, is like you had a couple people on that had contractual obligations where they could only do a half hour because they were doing a press thing.
Yeah.
You still had them on longer because they like talking to you, which was funny. You know, like I remember you telling me, okay, well, I only get this guy for a half hour. The episode's 45 minutes because they were enjoying. And you know, their agent was in their ear saying, get off that call, get off that call. And they were like, I got to wrap this up properly because this guy knows what he's doing. You know, like people will give you the extra time when they have it because they know that you're not full of shit.
One of the Vinny is a perfect example. Is if you notice one of the edits on that was that his computer was dying.
Yeah, because he was on a laptop and it wasn't plugged in. Yeah,
and so he goes, let me get the cords. He didn't say I got to go. He goes, let me get the cords. So we had a chance to talk for another 25, 30 minutes. and he was only going to do an hour, but we did about, I think, an hour and 25 minutes, and that's
Yeah,
because I even cut it off because I knew he had to go because he was rehearsing for some new songs he's going to do for Jimmy Bain, who died, who's his bass
yeah.
player, and so but yeah, he's an example. Another one that you mentioned was Constantine. He only could do like a
Yeah.
half hour. I said, how can I get a half hour? And then we did like almost an hour. He's like,
Yeah, and you had David Ellefson. I'm
oh
probably
yes, he's another one.
he was the one I remember specifically you telling me I'm only gonna give him a half hour. I'm like, make the best of it, bro.
I know.
And you had him on for like 45 or so. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like I guess where I'm going with it is like one of the cool things about you as an interviewer is that you do pay attention, you do your research.
Mhm.
Um, and I love when people correct you.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. I
Like
tell him,
when we did the only one I've done with you with celebrity was the Reggie Bannister one. It was Reggie, and you brought up something you saw on Wikipedia. You mentioned something. Oh, but I saw that on Wikipedia, and Reggie was like, "Well," like even at that point, he was like calling you out and using
yeah,
Wikipedia as a sports source, and I'm like, "Oh, don't use Wikipedia anymore."
yeah,
But you
no,
never know with Wikipedia. Like I can look at Wikipedia and be like, "Oh, that makes complete sense," But that was the only place you saw that, which was funny. Like, and yeah,
yeah, no, but
like you
I
also
see him make
laughed
it.
about it. You're like, well, moving on, like because you
We're,
never know. Like you can find the perfect source as well. Where I'm going with this is that you have a sense of humor about this kind of stuff.
oh
Like
yeah, well, I
people
actually
would
said it. So
fight
I
it
think
and say how they're right, and you were like, oh shit, okay, yeah.
yeah. Now, lately I've been doing is like, well, I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but, and then I'll say it, and then, but another thing I do is like, yeah, you really have to fire my researcher. So actually, I'm the only researcher here, or something like that. Like I said that a couple of
But
times.
you're also never going to get everything right, which is
No,
cool.
exactly. But the
And
thing
most people,
is,
and him and Gigi had a sense of humor about it. Which,
yeah,
they were, and it was a stupid, silly. It was about one of the sequels. Maybe this was the plot, and they were like, no,
yeah,
that was never discussed, and it could have been, but they never heard about it either, which is why
yeah.
they had sense of humor about it.
No, exactly. But and then that doesn't bother me at all because that
Yeah,
leads, it turns into like a funny little thing,
and it leads
and
to more
it turns into
conversation
a
about what the
whole.
sequel was going to be.
Yeah, exactly. It turned into a completely different, the sort of put the conversation in a whole new trajectory, and
Yeah.
I loved it because it's, so instead of like, so I can't stand there. So I think out of all the interviews I did, there was only one person that was more like yes, no,
Who
yes.
was? If you don't mind me, I can censor it when you say it, but who was it?
I can't remember his name. It was
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
our local artist show was like a local
Oh,
poet.
well, there were a couple, and I'm not saying this is a negative thing, but there have been a couple of the local artist shows or local people you've had in general who just had never been interviewed before.
No, exactly. Well,
They weren't really sure how to handle it, so they were just like weird and awkward and uncomfortable. Like, I mean, you've had a couple like people who just wouldn't
yeah.
stop. You've had some people that just they like I'm doing right now. They had the microphone and they just kept talking. Yeah,
We know which one that is. He was on 8 hours. This
8 hours. It was 8 hours.
was 5 hours, and then finally I said, I have to go. I mean, I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and my back was all.
Well, I was thinking of a couple different people, like,
Yeah.
but he was one of them, and there was, but like,
He came
yeah,
on
and
for
there.
3 hours after that.
What was that?
He said we did 5 hours. We stopped it, and he went on for another 3 hours. But you know what? I actually made a promo of him. It was the singer from the Bad Brains, Israel Joseph.
Oh, okay, him. I'm thinking of somebody else, but him. He was the other one I was talking about.
Yeah,
But
but
Israel's great. Like I love Israel,
no.
but you've had him on twice too for a reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Because like the first time was 5 hours, and he goes, man, and he goes, I love this show. This is
yeah,
the last thing I said after the 5 hours. I hit pause. He goes, this is fucking great. And I said,
yeah,
all right. Then we did another three. And he goes, I love the show. We made a promo out of it. So I love when people have the enthusiasm and they want to talk and they love talking
yeah.
and they have so many things because he really does have an interesting story. And he has an interesting take
You,
on life.
as a producer, you need to start doing like
I
live,
would love to. It's funny you mentioned that. Somebody was talking about that because there's the new.
like live on YouTube. Like do live chats.
Oh,
We have
that.
we have people asking the questions in the chat bar next to it, and you'll ask the interviewer, the interviewee, the questions. Like, and I can moderate, so I can be reading them to you. Like, we should probably do that. We should probably.
I would definitely
You
be
know,
up for that.
yeah.
Uh,
You know what we should do? And I'm gonna put this out there on YouTube now. What you should do is instead of doing like a big celebrity, do like an Elmwood themed episode.
yeah.
That way, like if it bombs, at least it was just Elmwood. Like,
Oh, I would
but
like to
like,
do that. Like
yeah,
again, start off with somebody like some of those, like like you said, more the local artists,
yeah.
and just get my feel. Because one of the things I hate, like sometimes people ask me to do things, you do it once, and you're like, oh really? I was like, you know what? Let me do it a couple times to
You
get my.
gotta
Yeah.
warm up. You gotta break in. Like I rewatched actually a month ago the Evil Dead episode of Real Talk,
Oh yeah.
which is the first one we did,
Yeah.
and it's good. But then I look at the next 2 or 3 episodes we did, and each one gets better. But we also got to know each other better too.
That's true.
But like the Evil, like my favorite one is actually out of all the real talks we've done, my favorite one is the thing.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah,
That's my favorite one, and part of it is because we just had fun. You know, they were all fun. We always have fun, but that one, something about that one just came together for me. And though Sunset Boulevard,
yes,
that episode was a lot of fun because, but we were picking movies that like not everybody remembers. Like like guys our age aren't watching Sunset Boulevard,
mm-hmm.
even when we
Yes,
were
yes.
young. Even like so
I know.
but that was proof that we were both movie nerds.
Mm-hmm.
That whatever happened to Baby Jane and Sunset Boulevard were the two movies
Great
we did.
movies.
And I don't own Sunset Boulevard on DVD, but I still have my copy of whatever happened to Baby Jane. Like I should buy Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. No,
But let's
I
talk.
have both.
So luckily for me, like we're gonna skew a little now because we're talking just like we're free forming and talking about you and your career essentially as
Yep.
a creator, bringing you into the Elmwood Productions world.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we met and we did these shows together, I brought you in to host the premiere of Bernice 2 when we premiered it at the Warner Studio Theater 2022.
Yep.
And sold out night, technically, because COVID. It was the last week before the mask mandate was lifted in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the last Friday before that. And you hosted that, and it was a huge success. And that has led to you hosting the final screening we did, which we might do another screening if somebody asks, but that was the final official screen that we were hosting in 2023 in Elmwood, Connecticut, which was cool. And wasn't as well attended, but that's okay. It was a Friday 13th in October. People were doing Halloween stuff. We know.
But it was, what? That was so much fun. I remember
we unintentionally created a religion that night that maybe you should do a documentary about now. Scientology, making fun of Scientologists. But also but then you become part of our crew, like the Elmwood guys and girls. We all adore you. We're all glad you hang out with us.
Yep.
Do things with us, and you're gonna write movies with us now.
Yes, we're working on that.
Going back to the Rich being the writer is where I was heading to it. That you are still a writer. Like people, don't forget that world. Rich is still a writer, and I don't know if it's been on the internet yet, but Rich is gonna be co-writing one of the sequels to Head. We're making 2 sequels, and Rich is one of the co-writers on one of those. So it's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah, no,
for me.
I thank you for bringing on board with that because I love the Head movie, and I cannot wait to start digging. Really, I mean, I've been like dabbling in it and watching things and getting ideas. Cool. But I'm going to start digging full force really soon.
This year is the year that we plan on writing them and getting them ready. Yeah. So like that'll be like our summer. Like our summer vacation will be writing Head 3 specifically for Rich and I.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing me to that and having me host because I love being.
I love it when you do that stuff.
So even if I'm not part of the movies, at least I get to actually host it and still be part of the crew. Because you guys are great. All of you have such a great, unique sense of humor.
Being a stand-up and a motivational speaker, it makes sense for you to be an MC as well. Being a DJ, add that into it. So being an MC makes complete sense, and you brought all that to it.
Which is funny because I don't know if it was from that, but. I was asked to host a couple open mics too. After that, people were like, "Because you're
on Torrington at the bookstore."
No, the church.
The church. That's right. It was the church with Eric Hahn. Yeah, he's awesome. I love Eric. Hi, Eric. If you're watching, I hope you're doing well.
And Conrad and both of them were like, "Richmond, you're the first person I thought of." So whenever Eric would be there sometimes, but
is he still do? Are they still doing those there?
No, it got canceled. I guess they didn't have the funding for it anymore.
That's a drag.
Yeah, but there's a couple of new ones that are opening up in Bristol. That I don't know if they're.
Oh yeah, downtown Bristol. Yeah. Ricky, part of Elmwood, he knows the people kind of who help run that. So you might see Elmwood involved with some of that stuff. So we'll have to make something happen. So what's next? What is your next big thing? Where do you want to go next?
Right now, it's funny because somebody just asked me that not too long ago. They're like, "You're always doing all these different things. What's that?" I said, right now, I am having so much fun doing the Claws Corner, Real Talk. I don't see anything else besides, the hosting Elmwood production premieres and helping write Head.
And being a writer,
other than those two things, I really don't see anything because, as you mentioned, with all the research, there's a lot of work that I put into it. So there's like right now, I'm interviewing a guy who wrote this book. So I've been reading this about David Lee Roth. He wants to be on the show. It's interesting.
I'm like, oh, that's cool. That was cool face, not a weird. No,
I'm sure a lot of people are like, "What the hell?"
Because David Lee Roth may be a d-bag, but his story is very interesting.
He's got
history. Van Halen's amazing.
He's got a lot of interest. I mean, like he would just go to the Amazon. There's so much more than just Van Halen.
No, yeah.
And reading this book, so I said, and the author's like,
"That's gonna be cool."
So like that. So I'm reading that, doing it, but then I have like two other interviews I'm getting ready like one's a poet, Jack Sheedy's wife, Patricia Mason. She just messaged me. She goes, Rich, I know we talked about this about a year ago, but I want to be on your show, so I'm getting her ready. Then I went to,
Well, Jack, for those who are watching, you don't know, Jack Sheedy's been on the Claus Corner. He's been a guest, and he does the Nutmeg Junction stuff with you guys.
yep. So he's
Well,
all
let's talk a little bit more about Nutmeg Junction, because we kind of glossed over that in a hurry. So that guy Joe does the Nutmeg Junction radio shows, and you're taking over a role from somebody who passed away. Talk about that a little bit.
All right. So very recently, Joe asked me to do an interview with him. He was going to interview. He interviewed me because it's called the legacy of WAPJ. So all the different WAPJ DJs over the years. So he interviewed me, and then after the end of the interview, he goes, Rich, man, you need to be on screen. I love your enthusiasm. You're always so all over the place. I love this. He goes, we got to do something for you. And all of a sudden, it's so funny, like watching his mind work. He's outside when we were going to the car. He goes, I think I have an idea. He's looking at the storefronts. He goes, what about you doing it? I can see him. He goes, I'll talk to you soon. He just walked away.
The wheels turning.
Yeah. 3 days later, he goes, I got it. And it was so funny because the script was Malcolm McDuff, Theater Detective. And I think the scripts are hilarious. You were part of one of them.
I just recorded one with you guys. Yeah. I was asked to be a guest performer on one. So it was fun.
But it was funny because I didn't even realize that I said something about the script. And he goes, well, Rich, you were in this one. I said, what? He goes, and I completely forgot that I was in the original script. I was like a side character, and Jeff was Malcolm McDuff. So he said, he goes, what we're gonna do is different from this one. Now it's like we're doing audio version now. It's gonna be on the premiere of it. It's gonna be this weekend. It's the weekend of March 9th. It's gonna be on. This
episode will be out after that, obviously. Yeah. But go on the Nutmeg Junction website world. We'll link it below and check these out. But go on.
Yeah, so we're gonna the difference between that is we're gonna do a whole bunch of recordings, and then starting in May, we're gonna record them on video. So we're looking for places like he already mentioned that he has a planetarium that's willing to do it. We're gonna do one at WAPJ, and I'm looking at this new place that I just saw a concert there. It's called the Rockwell Theater in Bristol. So I've been talking with the woman there because I want to get some other
Ariana.
Yes. Yep. Ariana. So I guess you know her.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Her and her husband are awesome people. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. I met her and I was talking to her because I also wanted to get there's a musician who did music with John Carpenter. My mind went blank on him too, but I interviewed him.
You had him on your show.
Yeah, so I want to try and see if I can get him there. And then there's also some other Lynn Griffin, who was in she wants to screen the movie Curtains that she did, or Black Christmas, and talk about it. And we're in talks right now of trying to get these guests there. And I guess like they were saying, because of money wise,
you got to host these things, man, because you're the claw.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so it's great that I'm sort of working my way into that, and then if I get that, and then we'll film.
So, but the Nutmeg, but the what's the show called again?
Which one?
The one you're doing with
Malcolm McDuff, Theater.
Malcolm McDuff. So you took over the role from Jack when he passed away. That's where we're going. That's where I was kind of going. That you took this show over. You're doing this radio show now. Yeah. It's audio, comedy, drama things.
Yeah, which my version of Malcolm McDuff is completely different than.
Which is what it should be. It should be Connery versus Roger Moore. You should do something different with it if you're gonna play it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like a Malcolm McDowell and Donald Pleasance, where completely different Loomis.
Yeah. Do your own version of it. There have been 12 Batmen.
But I'm more of the Donald Pleasance Loomis, though. I'm the more off the walls one. Jeff was a little bit more sedated.
I'm down with Donald Pleasance all day.
Definitely.
Are you gonna get him on your show? I'm just kidding.
I'm working on it.
Be a little Donald Pleasance action figure, and I'll do the voice. So, but you're doing that as well. So you still have that going on too, and you're gonna do more episodes of that. I'm assuming it's not just.
This is just beginning, and it all happened because being interviewed, and I was just so animated. He goes, Rich, you got to be on film. Oh,
when he wants to film them, I'm just curious. I'm going off tangent a little bit, but he wants to film them. Is he gonna have you got now? You're gonna actually film them as short films, in costume and all that.
Yeah,
so not even using the old audio. You're gonna actually show up and react it.
Yep.
You're gonna act it out instead.
Yeah, on the way home, when I was coming home from work, he's sending me emails saying, Rich, what do you think of this outfit? What do you think of this outfit? So I'm going to look at them and just sort of, because I have an idea of what the character is going to look like. But
I'm just thinking about the episode I did. I'm just thinking about that one because I did an episode where I play a puppet, actually, and there's puppet characters in it. Like I can't imagine, and I'm not no disrespect to the other people in it, but I can't imagine like Jack being a puppeteer. Is he a puppeteer?
No,
Yeah. So like, is he going to use the same cast or bring in different people or?
that I don't know. That for that
Yeah,
part, I
like that
know.
could be interesting. That could be really. I mean, I could teach Jack how to be a puppeteer, unrelated, just me brainstorming because I would love to do that episode. You know,
But
obviously,
you're
and be the play the puppet in it, and I'll bring Elmo to bring the puppets. But it's just like, I wonder. Just things I should talk to Joe about. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, that I
Well,
don't know about. I know that he said he told you on the air. He said, "I want you to be part of the show if
yeah,
you want
I'll
to
come
be."
back and do more episodes. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
fun. It's fun for me to not be the boss.
yeah.
You know, so to come in and just be a performer. And on a radio drama, that's even easier because I can just show up like this
I
and
know
be my
exactly.
underwear. You know, recording it from home. You know, like that's a cool thing for me to not. I like being in other people's projects. I'm sure you do too, because you're
Oh,
not
it's
in
fun.
charge.
Yep.
Like
And
you're in charge of the Claws Corner. You're in charge of Real Talk, and like so there's a lot of like you do all the research, a lot of stress, a lot of this,
oh
a lot
yeah,
of that.
have to do all
Takes
the
time out
research.
of
You
your
have to get the
life.
guests. Have to keep up on them. Make sure they know
Yeah,
that the. So there's times where
or
like
their agents, or
maybe
their managers,
yeah.
or their handlers, and so it's nice when you can just lean back and just be a performer. You know, yeah.
Well, it's funny because like when we're talking, I sometimes I forget about the different things I've done. Another thing I did was as I mentioned, I love going to the movie conventions. This is where I meet a lot of these people.
You're right. Yeah, you go
I
to all
went
the
to
horror cons and comic cons and things
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
I went to one recently, and this I saw a bunch of Michael Myers masks, and I said these are awesome. And then so we were talking for a while, and the kid said, "He goes, you were like one of the coolest people I ever met. Do you want to be in one of my movies?" So it's called he makes these Halloween fan films, and so he did one American Halloween 3, which got tons of views, millions of views. I have to look. I forgot what it was. He said it was like the most he ever got, but I got to play a radio host. No, sorry, it was going to be a radio host, and they changed it to TV because we were going to film at WAPJ, but we couldn't get in. And
Oh,
they
bummer.
did it. So I made, but it's great where Michael Myers snaps my neck. It's on YouTube. It's called American Halloween 3. So
Cool.
and then I talked to him recently, and when he goes, I said, "Well, how you gonna bring my character?" He goes, "You'll play another character in the next one. You know, so
That's
we'll find something
with
for you."
fan films though, because there's with fan like yeah. Why not play a different character? You know, like, yeah, they're just fan films. It's cool. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yep. So I mean, another thing that I haven't done recently, but I have done for the last
You've
couple.
acted as well. Yeah, we should
Yeah,
probably talk about that a little.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did the 48-hour film fest, which are fun, but
Yep.
also um, this started at the Strand Theater, where one time I went to there was a sing
I
along.
was gonna bring up Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's a sing along, and nobody was getting into it. And so I just jumped up on stage, got everybody dancing, everybody singing. And so when I was leaving, the woman's like, "You're really good at getting the crowd going. Do you want to start hosting?" So my first one was they hosted the Blues Brothers, and I was
You dressed
one,
up as Elwood or
yeah.
Jake.
Well, at that time I was Jake.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight since then, but
Oh.
so now I'm more Elwood. But that led to like, well, what about Beetlejuice? And you know what's funny? And people laugh when I say this. I never even saw Beetlejuice before that. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I never watched it. So I
I
said, I
love
gotta watch
that
it.
movie. So
I said,
yeah.
all right, I can do this. Yeah, I love this. I love Beetlejuice. So I started doing, and another thing with that one, I did it not this last year, the year before, and they let me know at the last minute, and I said, and she said, I don't know if we should do it. It's too soon. I said, we'll do it. They actually had to add chairs because it was sold out. The lines were down the street. They had to
Cool.
actually put these folding chairs in this little area because there was no more seats left. So it's
That's awesome.
and then another one I did was the Grinch. It only lasted 1 year. I guess they didn't like it as much for some reason.
Didn't
But
sell as well or whatever. Just
it's
wasn't as
sold. But I
interesting.
think that they don't really like them. Seemed like they didn't like the movie that much with Jim Carrey.
Was it the Jim Carrey one?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun. And like,
I'm not a fan of that movie.
oh really? So I was surprised.
You can't top the original animated film.
Oh no, of
The
course not. I'm not
special.
even comparing
Show
it.
that. Just show that.
Yeah,
You know, like
nothing. Well, and speaking of that, I loved having Sarah Karloff on.
yeah, you had Sarah on. That's
Yeah, we
right.
talked about
That
that.
was recent. That was in the past year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she told me that that was the best thing her father ever did. That was like the one thing that he could actually show her, and she
Yeah.
was so
And he
happy.
loved it too. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I
Well,
agree with you on that, but I was surprised because I am a snob when it comes to like any kind of remakes or any kind of reboots. That one I actually surprisingly enjoyed.
yeah, I didn't have a problem with it being like something that was already been done because they did something different with it. Like they
Yeah,
didn't. It wasn't another animated version of it. They made a live action version. They went back to the book. They weren't trying to remake the animated thing. They used a song, which is cool. Because the song is next level iconic. I get it. So another thing that you do, totally derailing what we're talking about, is in the past couple of years you've suddenly started running marathons and
yes,
stuff. What brought that on, sir?
Well, it was after COVID where I just gained, as I mentioned before, I was Jake from Blues Brothers. I gained a lot of weight. I said, you know what, I gotta go to the gym. I need to get back into shape. So I started going to the gym, and for fun, I was just put on my podcast, not my podcast, put on my headphones and just start running. And I said, I actually enjoyed it. The people are like, "You're
Cool.
crazy. How do you enjoy running?" I said, "I love this." So then all these different things started popping up. Oh, there's a 5K here, 5K there. I said,
Right.
so I started running them. Then next thing you know, I started winning. Like, and I always make the joke. It's like I love being an old guy because I'm always like in either number one or number two in my age group.
Your
It's like
age group, right.
when you're running against 100-year-olds. But so I started running these different 5Ks. I want to get up to like the full marathon. I haven't done that yet.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've done
I've seen you do
5Ks.
5Ks, yeah, which is just wild to me, man. Like
Well,
so cool.
yeah, 3 point something miles,
Yeah.
3.2 miles, I think. And people say, "Oh, that's," when the same people that will laugh at that, I want to say, "Let's see you run that," and they'll be out of breath within like the first
Right.
mile.
Or why are you laughing at that? It's something to do.
I know.
Like,
Well, people,
like, yeah.
I think people just like to joke of things that they know they can't do and they wish they could do.
Right.
That's
There you go. That's a fact. Like, you look at your creativity. People are like, oh, why is he doing that? Well, what are you doing, bro? Shut up. You know?
I had a quote unquote friend, which not really a friend. He goes, "Oh, I could do a podcast." I said, "Well, then just do it. Stop talking
Do
about it."
one. Right. That's why I haven't done one because I didn't know what I could bring that was different to it.
Yep.
Where you have brought something different to it. You haven't just gone on and talked about movies you love. Even when we do real talk, you're not just talk. We're talking about the history. What I like about the real talk thing, which just makes the podcast different. We're not just talking about the movie and the history and the trivia we know. We're talking about our experiences with the movie,
Oh yeah.
like how what it makes us feel and how it inspired us to do other things. That's one thing I liked about the films we've chosen to talk about. They're always something that we can relate to something in our life.
Hmm.
Or all these other podcasts talk about movies are just like, oh, the gossip about the movie, or this happened behind the scenes. Yeah, we talk about that kind of stuff a little bit, but then we're like, I love this movie because my mom took me to see it. We have that other side of it, like, and that's cool. But the 5K thing, sorry, I didn't mean to go back, but like that's so cool that you just started. And would you have any marathons coming up or anything that we can go and heckle
There's
you at? I can go and watch you at.
There's one. There's one next Saturday. I'm not sure if I'm doing it. It's called the Shamrock Fest in Hamden. In March.
Oh God, with all the, I'll
Yeah,
skip anything with St. Patrick's Day because I love the holiday, but holy cow, the madness that goes along
yeah,
with
yeah.
it.
I just don't know. Like,
Amateur night. Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what my schedule is, but that might. But if not, they're all. This is the first of many. After that, it's like
You have
almost
stuff
every
coming though,
weekend.
which is
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
and I just
Fun.
love doing it, and I always like my goal is always to try to better myself. Like I'm never
Yeah,
in
you're not trying to
competition.
win, you're just trying to do it.
Yeah, I'm
But
never
do
in
better than you
competition.
did last time.
Yeah, I'm more in competition with myself. I don't really care about what anybody else is doing. I'm like, all right, the last time I did 26 minutes, I'm going to do 24 minutes this time. So just try to every time I try to get a better pace, better speed. And the fastest one I ever did was, wow, I'm trying to think, was like a 6 minute mile, which I thought I was going to die.
Woo!
I That one killed me because I
It
just
would take
wouldn't
me like
stop.
12 minutes to do that at least.
Yeah,
I'd be
well,
dead.
when I first started doing it, it was probably like a 13-minute mile, and then I kept on going faster. Got it down to 9 minutes, then got down. So normally it's around 8 minutes. That's my average speed,
Nice.
but it's not too bad.
That's fantastic. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, I love it. So I'm having a good time doing that, and it's another thing
Good.
I really can't foresee myself stopping it at any time.
I'm so excited for that, man. Like you're doing it, like how many people like we talked about earlier, people talk about doing things, they don't do it.
Yep.
You are the example of to just do it. And not to use a catchphrase, but like
Yeah.
you want to do it, you committed to it, you do it, and your whole life has really been that in some ways. Like it's inspirational, because you've chosen to never let anything stop you. We all have fits and starts for sure. And what I like is you followed your muse every time.
Hmm.
You were a kid, you wanted to make plays based on movies you loved. So you ripped those off, you did it. Like you got into music, you want to be a singer in a band, so you did it.
Yep.
You wouldn't even really want to do that. Somebody asked you if you want to do it. You're like, hell yeah, I'll follow that for a while. And you like doing it. Then, but I love music, but I'm not really into being a band. So I'll DJ. I like hanging out on radio stations. Like you've always just everything has led to the next thing.
Yeah.
You've always followed your muse too and done what you want to do and made it happen. You've been determined. Even some of the, like in the 5 years I've known you, some of the guests you've had, you were determined to get.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna get this
Yes.
person on. I'm not gonna let it go till I get them. And like, and some of, I'm not even talking like big Hollywood people necessarily every time. I'm just saying in general, you know, like you've had some local people on, you like, I want to get that person on, and you made it happen,
Mhm.
you know, like, and that's really cool. Like, you're a perfect example of the like, if you want it to happen and you work hard enough, anything can happen.
I know, and
And
that's
that's
why
cool.
I could. That's
Yeah.
why I get mad when people try to give me an excuse. I'm like, there's really no excuse, and
Yeah.
you can do it. Just and everybody's. I think what most people are worried about is not being good enough. It's like,
Yeah. And who cares? Just
who
do it for
cares?
you.
I know as long as
Like that's my mentality. I do it for me.
exactly.
I enjoy being creative. I enjoy making art, whatever that art may be. But for me, right, for me, it's puppets and and filmmaking with puppets usually. You know, I love that. And if I wasn't really good puppet maker, I'd still be doing it. If I wasn't really good puppeteer, I'd still be doing it because I enjoy doing it. And the fact that I got good at it and that you got good at what you're doing, you know, helps for sure. But just do it for you and don't worry what other people think.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better you're gonna get.
It's funny you say that because when I was writing the book, I became part of a book club just for fun, just to talk to different authors.
The writing
And
group. Yeah.
yeah, writing group. So when I was there, I mean, there was people that were writing their first novel or short story, whatever it was. So in between that time, I wrote everything, edited it, sent it, did a couple book signings, and they're still writing.
They're still writing the same book
I
7 years later.
I did a class. They had me teach a couple classes. My class was um, perfection is the death of good. I said, you're never going to get it perfect. Just get it as good as you can get and put it out. I said, they're more worried about what everybody else is. I think a couple of people I'm thinking and I have in mind is that once it's done, then it's real. And then people are going to comment on it and they're so worried. It's like, who gives a fuck what people think about it?
Some of my favorite reviews I've had are the bad reviews.
Exactly.
You know, because you have to take it all with a grain of salt. Because most people writing reviews never made a movie either. You know, or no one's already never wrote a book. You know, like, yeah, so don't let those things stop you from doing it. Who cares? Just do it. I mean, I get like you don't want your ego to be crushed, but at the same time, you might learn from that too.
I
You
always
know?
say it's like, what's the worst? Like when I was doing comedy, I said, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? I'm not gonna walk off stage and die. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, if no one laughs, then those jokes didn't work. You have to try them in front of somebody still, you know?
Well, I always say it's like, I said, they worked last, they laughed last night, they'll laugh tomorrow. I never because people.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of that. Somebody said, "Oh, well, you should make your comedy more generic so you get more places." Like, no, I said, I love my comedy. I'd rather have the smaller audience that really loves me.
That loves it, right.
One of the worst things that I think people could be is apathetic. I'd rather have people hate me or people love me. If anybody goes,
Right.
"What do you think of Rich?" Which one was that? Which
Yeah,
joke?
I want to be memorable
Yeah, exactly.
in my creativity. So if you don't like what I made and you remember it, I did something right. If you love it, I did something even better than right. You know,
And
I always say, like, I'll give a movie that wasn't great a thumbs up if I was entertained.
mhm.
The worst thing you can do is be boring.
Yep.
That's a thumbs down. You know, like a movie, music, whatever. When it's boring, it's bad. There's always so bad it's good. And that still gets a thumbs up. But if it's boring, there's no chance of it being so bad it's good even. And that goes for comedy, that goes for like what we're doing tonight, that goes for anything. Absolutely. Yeah. Apathy.
So I never ever, and even I remember another one was with the book. I'm using this another example where this woman used to come in to where I work and say, "Oh, Rich, the first story. Here's a book. Why don't you?" It was like a book on writing. I said, "No, I'm good. I'm happy with the story." And then second story, Rich, I really didn't like
Was
it.
she a writer?
No, she's just a very opinionated bitch. But
A wannabe writer.
yeah, but here's what happened. So
I love that. As a writer, I deal with that too. So,
oh yeah, but it never bothered me. I just
yeah, you
laughed
just
at it.
laugh about it because your book is out there. It's done. You're not
Oh, yeah.
changing it.
Yeah, but here's what the best part is. By the fifth story, she comes in. She goes, "Holy shit!" Like in the middle of where I work.
She got into
That
it.
they kept up all night, and so
The
my
Fluffy is the fifth
coworkers.
story?
What was that?
Is Fluffy the fifth story in the book?
No, it's the oh my god, I forgot the name of the story. It's the one
Okay.
where the twin and it was set in Wolf,
Okay. No,
Connecticut.
okay. Yep.
I can't remember it. But anyway, so fine. And my coworker's like, I haven't read that story. I can't believe the part when the twin killed this. I haven't read. And my and she kept going. She goes, "Oh my god, it was up all night. That was so great." So
Cool.
I kept the whole time. I kept on saying, "I don't care. I don't care if you like it. I don't care." And finally, I won her over. But I don't even
Yeah.
care if I win her over or not. Like with
Right.
comedy,
But it's cool when you do. Yeah. But
yeah.
yeah.
I can tell you in comedy, so many people's like, Rich, I'll never have you on a show. You freaked up my girlfriend with your hand. And so I was like, I loved it. Those were the best comments. It's like people are that uptight. Fuck them.
That too, like that's who you are, you know.
Exactly.
Like I use like you talk about how like some of those people in that writing group are still writing their book 8 years later, you
Yep.
know. Elmwood has had a lot of people in and out of our group who want to be writers, want to be producers, want to be actors, whatever the case may be. Part of the reason why we made Head was because we had another guy who was going to write a horror movie for us. He still has not finished that movie,
Yep.
you know. And we made Head was released 10 years ago,
Oh my God. Yeah. So he's still working on it?
and I have no idea anymore. You know, I don't know, but I know when I last left it was in 2010. So 5 years before we even made Head, I finally said, because he just kept wanting to monkey with it. I'm like, you know what? When you're done, when you think the script is done, send it to me and we'll make the movie. And I'll stand by that. I'm not saying I'll let him direct it or produce it, but send me the script and we'll make the movie because we promised you we'd make the movie. I still have never seen a script, a finished script. And what kills me is the second or third draft he sent was so good. It would have been a great short film, you know. But he was so, I got to make it epic. I got to do this. And he's never made a movie. He's made one short film that Elmwood produced, that like three of us backseat directed to make sure it came out okay. But he's never, you know, like, and that's just part of it. Like, and those are the same people that would come to me later and give me opinions on the things I did. And it's just like, well, what have you done? You know, like that's, you know, with me, when somebody comes to me with an idea, oh, you should have done it this way. My response is always, what did you do?
Exactly.
If you're Steven Spielberg, please tell me how I can be better.
I know.
If you've
Everybody
never
has.
made a movie, don't tell me how I can be better because you don't know what it takes to write a book. You don't know what it takes to make a movie. You don't know what it does to do a podcast because there's more to it than just doing it.
Yeah, you always have those armchair quarterbacks. Like
Yes. Yeah.
but the name of the story was The Dark Secret. That was the one that she loves. I forgot. It's
Cool.
funny because like the things we're talking about, I haven't really talked about in a couple of years. So it's like,
Yeah.
but anyway, so that was the one. And going back to the writing group, the one of the people in the writing group says, "Well, who should I write for?" I said, "Whoa, whoa." You write for yourself. Don't
Great
find
for
the
you.
audience. Let the audience find you. Because if you're trying to pander to the audience, they're going to see right through. If you're writing what you're passionate about, not everybody's going to love it, but there's going to be people say, "Wow, I can relate to that.
Yep.
That really hit me." And so I said, and she goes, "Wow, you're right." I said, I didn't realize you had to think about that. I said, "Don't write for other people. Write for yourself."
Yes. Some
And
people don't get that though. They think that because they're putting something out there that is technically a product when it's
no,
done, there
no,
should be a built-in audience. And no,
no. I
Stephen King never would have wrote The Body if he was worried about his audience.
yeah,
You know, he
exactly.
wouldn't have never would have wrote that because he would have been like, well, it's not a horror story. He never would have wrote Shawshank Redemption
Mhm.
if he was worried about pandering to his audience. He was like,
Yep.
I'm gonna write what makes me happy to write.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
for
you
you.
know the
So
story with
up
Head.
next for you then is more Claus Corner, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Good, good.
So Claus Corner is definitely going to be going on for a long time because, and you know what I love too is what we're with these guests. One example, one of my favorite interviews is with Apache Ramos, who played. He had one line in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Warriors. We talked for 3.5 hours.
It's a two-parter episode, isn't it?
Yeah, because he had so much. He worked with the Fat Boys. He
He
helped
was a
AIDS
music
patients.
manager for a while, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but so you'd see these people are like, oh, he only had one line movie. What's he? He's going to be boring. And no, then perfect example of that is I was making a joke with my brother. I had somebody on from the movie Stream, and my brother saw the movie. He goes, and I made a joke. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. He said, yeah, I don't know what I would talk about. I said, I'm kidding. I have like 30 questions written.
Yeah, because she's got a small part in it. Her character doesn't even have a name.
No, player number
So,
3, player number
yeah,
4.
yeah. But she's in the movie. It's not like she's only in the movie for 2 minutes. She's in
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah, and she's great in it.
Yeah.
But she had such an interest. I mean, singing with Tony Bennett, singing with
Yeah,
Billy
she had a
Joel.
great life story too, so
Yeah,
which was really cool. That's a good episode. Like I recommend that one.
yeah. So I'm just bringing that up to say, like, some people like, oh, well, who? Why would you have this person? It's like these people have so many interesting. Those are them. I think some of the people that you would expect the least out of have the best stories.
You look at somebody like her. I'm drawing a blank on her name right now.
Leanna Perella.
Perella. Okay. You look at somebody like her though. She could blow up next year.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, she could become the next big actress, and you had her on first, and that's going to be remembered. Or you look at like you have the people that own the people who bought the Conjuring house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they don't really have a story to tell. They
Nope.
bought a house. They bought a famous house. But that house is the story. You
Yep,
know?
exactly. And that's I
Uh,
think I think that and the Buford Pusser are my two most watched shows.
Well, the Buford Pusser is not the most watched anymore because we had to cut that one.
Not that one. The guy who
Oh, they
talked
wrote the book
about,
about him. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that one has like
I
six.
lost my, I lost
Um,
my Zoom view.
it was this guy, the
Yeah,
Buford
the
Pusser,
guy who wrote the book on Buford Pusser. Yeah,
Mike Elam.
Elam.
Yeah,
Hold on, I'm going to your videos right now. Most popular video on your channel.
I think it's Mike Elam.
Your number one view is one of your archive ones for Andrea Perrin.
Yep, see, the Conjuring. So that's funny.
But that was one of just the audio that you did in your old podcast show that we re-released. That has 15,000 views. Your second most popular video is for the real Claw's Corner era is the Conjuring House owners with 7,000, and then Mike Elam is just under 7,000.
Okay.
And then randomly, Randy Schmidt.
Yes. Well, I
His
love
two
that.
episodes are way over 1,000 each.
Yeah.
Because you broke that up into two because it was like a 3 hour plus interview.
Well, yeah, he was
But
getting.
also, Karen Carpenter has a huge following too, so that helps.
Yeah, that was such a fun interview.
That was.
People laugh when I say this, and people think I'm kidding, but I am a huge Carpenters fan. I
There's
thought they
nothing
were,
wrong with that. Yeah.
and I love their music and just talking. And she has such a sad, tragic life, but there's so much to it, and all the different. I mean, she started off as a jazz drummer.
Yeah, oh, she's an amazing drummer.
I did
So
not
just so you know,
realize.
your 13th most popular episode, number 13, is me
All right,
on Local Artist Show.
really? See, I
It's your
thought my
13th
favorite.
most watched episode.
I have to say my favorite interview with you was the last one where we talked about you going to Hollywood. I
The
like
Hollywood episode, yeah, that's
that.
probably
That
my
was
least
just fun.
viewed. That was a fun day, yeah. That was fun. I like I'm scrolling through like based on most popular and backwards right now on your YouTube channel. And it's fun to see like, okay, Heather Thomas. I forgot you had Heather Thomas
Me
on.
too.
Adrian Barbeau.
Yes.
Stanley Livingston, one of the guys from My Three Sons. Bobby Torcello, the drummer. Bobby
Yep,
T.
Bobby Troll. He played with Michael Bolton.
Yep.
He's played with
Cheshi. Or is it Keshi? Keshi?
um
The rapper?
Chesky.
Cheshki. I mean, you had Cheshki on, who's like this big underrated
Yeah.
Jimmy Bell, a Connecticut local legend.
Oh yeah, I mean he was so close to working. He was between him and Zach Wilde and Ozzy.
Yeah.
And then he played with Bill Ward. He wrote a song for Black Sabbath. Now he's playing in Autograph, which is
He's
not
an autograph now, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean he's been around. He's never ever stopped playing, and he is like for this area a local legend. Like
Local legend, yeah. D. Wallace, like Max Gale, David Harris. You have a whole playlist now of just the Warriors because you've had so many Warriors people on the show.
you know what I love about that, the Warriors in general, because that's one of my favorite movies growing up, and
Yeah.
every one of them afterwards said, "We got to hang out." I love talking to him. We got to, and I've hung out with Tom G. Waits. Rob Ryder wants to hang out with me. He was
Nice.
one of the so it's so great that like growing, and that's why people laugh like, "Oh, you have all these has-beens on." I love that because these are the people that I grew up with. These are the people I love.
But they're not. People call them has-beens, but they're not. They're just B celebrities. Like they're still going. You know.
Well, I know. Well, that's what people don't realize. Like, perfect example is I interviewed the band Raven.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were still around. They've recorded.
Yeah, their guitarist on, right? Yeah, that was recent. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when I was doing my research, I'm like, oh my god, because I listened to them in the '80s and I
80s,
love them.
yeah. And they're still going. They're in Europe. Yeah, like or the singer from Saliva. You know, like or Constantine. You had Constantine Margolo. So I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure.
And he's another one that said he can only do a half hour. So he did. I forgot how long it is there, but he did.
I'm
like
just
40 minutes.
scrolling through everything now. Tom G. Waits.
Yes, he was a great guy. He actually, what I love too is he started referring some of his actors because he's a director as well.
Yeah.
And you know,
Alan Howarth, by the way, is the guy.
That's it. Thank you. It's like, I'm trying to get him to Bristol. And
cool.
What he does is he plays the music of the movies, and he has the movies in the background.
Cool. Very cool.
He said, like, he goes, I think it's no coincidence. Right after I started doing that, John Carpenter started doing it with his son Cody.
You had Rodney Norman on.
Yes.
Who, like during the pandemic, he like blew up via TikTok and Instagram and all that. You know, like and like people don't even know who he is till they see his face. They don't know his name, but if you saw his face, like, oh, that guy. You know. And that it's funny. I'm going through your views now while we're talking. That only has 60 views. How does that not have more?
I know.
You know, like
that's.
But you never know what's going to happen because you also had a band that I thought you had this one band. I'm drawing a blank on their name now, but these are like the type of people that I thought you'd have like 1 million views on.
Yeah.
And when I remember the name, I'll if I see it as I'm scrolling out. But you didn't. Their episode just didn't blow up.
Yeah.
Tragedy.
Oh, me, yeah, exactly. I was
because
surprised.
they're really popular on like Spotify. But
Oh yeah,
but that episode just didn't take off. Sometimes though, as a creator, and you know this too from your own experience, if you're not promoting it,
yeah.
people are going to see it, and you do the promotion. But these bands don't always. These artists, these musicians, these
That's
actors, they don't share it, and
no, I
that can
know.
bite. And then you're like, how come no one watches my interviews? Well, you're not telling anybody you got interviewed.
That gets me mad. And that's got me mad over the years with everything I've done. Like I used to put together comedy shows, and the comedians would never promote it. Tell people. I said, you can't tell your friends where you're playing.
If
So
you don't tell your friends and family, then who else is going to show up?
yep. No,
Tell people
exactly.
know who you are. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's your friends and family are your audience until you are successful. Yeah,
And that's what gets me mad with some people. Like you mentioned, I said, can't you just like, can't you put it on your YouTube channel? Can't you put it on like on your
share it
Facebook?
on your social
Yeah,
media. Share the
exactly.
link.
It doesn't take that on. So a lot of times, if
Yeah,
when I become friends with them, I tag them and I put it on their page so they people see it. And now what I've been doing too is joining all these groups like the Thing group or
yeah. I've seen you do that. Like you added me to a wasn't a Phantasm group.
oh, I don't
But
even know. I think I've
like
belonged to four or
like when
five
we
of them.
first started doing this, you added me to a group. It might have been a Thing group or
Yeah,
and like to help promote the episode. And I'm like, okay, you know, like that's smart. Because I mean, I'm in a bunch of puppetry groups like on Facebook and all that to share our videos and
yeah.
filmmaking groups. So like, yeah,
And that's where I get most of the views. It's not usually from my friends. It's usually from when the groups like if I have an actress
because
on
you're
or an
sharing
actor.
it on social media. Yeah,
Yep. And I love it. I mean, that's why I want to. I'm trying if you're great at promoting too. So if you could think of something else that I can do to get like the videos somewhere else, let me know because I'm
yes,
trying to put them everywhere I can. And
everywhere we can.
yeah,
All right, technical glitch there. So, Rich, are you going to write another book? Do you think ever?
I yes. I
Okay,
don't know when, but I do have some ideas. And then one of these times I just have to is what we talked about. Just do it. And instead of like
erotica. I'm just
erotica.
kidding.
No, no, no. I was gonna say, who told you? Good, but I was gonna write erotica too. It's like,
So like, I guess where I was going, like, so like you said, do what you want to do how you want to do it, which is great.
yeah,
Um, is there anything like, do you have like I know when I think about Elmwood Productions, our whole thing is like if we're entertained by it, somebody else will be.
yeah,
So we hope people are entertained. And our message is just if we had a message, it's just treat people right, be positive, have a good time. We make horror movies and all that, but have a good time. Do your thing. Do you have like a message or anything you'd want to like share or like the rich seer mantra, whatever?
yeah. No,
Anything like
basically
that?
basically what we talked about is like, don't, don't, how can I put this? Don't be afraid to do what you want to do within, make sure. I'm saying within reason.
Within legal reasons.
Legal,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Don't
Let's
hurt
phrase that.
anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But if you want to do a podcast, do a podcast. If you want to do acting, try acting. Don't be afraid of what other people think. Just do it because you want to do it, and don't think you're too old. So many people I know like, oh, I'm too old for that. No, as long as you're not neglecting your responsibilities, as long as you're still paying your bills, doing everything you have to do. Why can't you have fun? Just because you've reached a certain age doesn't mean you have to stop living. So I always say,
Age is nothing but a mentality and a number.
exactly. I'm 56 years old, and I probably having more fun now than I've had in my 20s and 30s. And
Right?
I'm loving life right now. So my message is just do what you want and have fun with it. Don't worry about anybody else. Just do and don't worry that if you fail, who cares? Just get right back up, brush yourself off, and do it again. And so my message is just like, just live your life and make the most out of it. Don't live life and then when you're like 80 years old, like I wish I did that. I wish I did.
And
Live life without
right.
regrets.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, good.
So that's basically that would be my mantra. Because like I've had people say over the years, why do you do all these things? And all I say is, why not? I have the time. I have so many interests. I want to try it.
It's better to try and fail than to never have tried at all. That's for sure.
Exactly. So that would be my mantra, my message to
And
everybody.
is there anything you want to like say directly to the audience or your friends and family or anything right now before we wrap up the night and we do the thank yous and good nights?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for all the support they've given me over the years. As I mentioned, when I did comedy, biggest shows I ever had. When I did book signing, the biggest book signing I ever had. When I did motivational speaking, you've always been there, always supported me, and thanks for coming along for the ride. Because I'm hoping you're having just as much fun as I am.
Awesome. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is another edition of the Claws Corner. We need to thank Rob Bull.
Yes.
And who's the gentleman who's doing the cable access?
Al Coles.
Al Coles.
Yep. He has a cable channel in Waterbury, Connecticut, and he loves the show. He goes, Rich, he goes, I just sit there and I just start watching these. And I love it. He's just like you, just like Rob Bull. Like, do you mind if I help you with this? I'm like, no, please help me with this.
And then Rob Bull gets the show on Spotify and a few other Apple, like different podcast networks. So look for Rich's shows there.
Spotify,
if you don't want to watch
iTunes,
them on
Amazon
YouTube.
Music, Audible, iHeartRadio.
There you go. Read it off again.
Spotify, Amazon, Audible, iHeartRadio, and iTunes.
Right? And iTunes. Yeah. And then we want to thank your editor extraordinaire, as you always say, Jon Bristol from Elmwood Productions. I know that guy.
Yeah, great guy.
John, I would say on average, you always say each and every week, but the show's on average twice a month. If you average it out over the years, but each and every week is fine. We can still say that.
Well, for the most part, it's on, like, especially lately, it's been on.
You've been almost weekly lately, but there've been a few. I'm not saying an average. If you looked at the 5 years and you spread it out, I would say twice a month, maybe three times a month.
Yeah,
but weekly. We'll call it a weekly show still, but it's almost weekly. So here we are, though. And you're still going, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on 5 years of the Claws Corner, man. Like, we survived the pandemic and we survived everything else, and we're surviving still. And you're still putting your shows out. And also thanks to Joe for hooking us up to make this happen. Because
thank you, Joe.
If Joe work, we wouldn't even be here right now. So that does wrap up the 5th anniversary of the Claws Corner. I don't know who's going to come up after this one because I don't even know when this episode's coming out, sometime in March or April. But congratulations, Rich.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being on the show. And again, Rich the Claw Seer is the host of the Claws Corner normally. I'm just filling in tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on my show.
Yes, thanks for having me on my show. I love that. He is a comedian, an actor, a metal singer, a disc jockey, an author, a motivational speaker, a marathon runner, and so much more. I want to thank you so much for being on your own show tonight. Thank you for letting me take over and be the guy interviewing and asking you the questions. And I also want to thank one more person tonight. One more person, the most important person of all on these shows. We need to thank you, the viewer, for being here tonight. Thank you so much, and good night.
Enjoy your day, everyone.
Available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror. Available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
And we've done it.
I love that.